Hello and welcome to episode 311 of the Crate and Crowbar, a PC gaming podcast being recorded on the 5th of February. I don't know why I need to look at the date since it's the day before my birthday. I should remember that really. Happy birthday to me from the day that this goes out yesterday. Also, happy birthday to Paul Scott Canavan, whose birthday I share.
Excellent.
Very nice man. Very nice man. I wish him well on his 34th birthday, enviably several years younger than I am.
Sounds a little bit stalkery.
No, he said it on Twitter today.
Oh, okay.
Just happy to see it. Have I said all the things I need to say in the
introduction? You haven't said who you are or who we are.
Oh, right. Yeah, I knew I was missing something. I'm Marsh Davis. Who are you?
I'm Chris Thurston.
And
I'm Alex Wiltshire, and this is the Crate and Crowbar podcast.
Excellent.
Energy in the room.
Energy in the room. We've got some news this week, haven't we? Shall we start with, the most least interesting news? Geforce's new streaming service?
Oh, the energy has left the room.
I mostly want to talk about it because it was real news to me today what it actually is. I thought it was like a subscription service where you stream the games for a set price and you just have access to all the games that they have on the service, like Netflix. But apparently that's not what it is. Apparently you can stream games only if you already own them. And maybe
or you buy them on the service.
You can. That wasn't clear to me in some of the articles written about it.
It's not very clear even on the websites, but I'm almost certain that you can buy them on the Geforce store of some...
Is this related to was it the Shield? They had like a tablet that you would stream games to from your PC a while ago.
I think that is like a piece of middle hardware that you can use to facilitate this service on some devices, but it's not necessary for all of them. That's right. What I understood from what was not a very clear amount of information about this day. Also, it seems like there are two subscription packages, one of which is free, but limits you to an hour per session, and one of which you pay for, which limits you to 6 hours per session, but it's not clear exactly how these sessions are apportioned, why these sessions would be limited at all, why they would go for limiting a session.
Yeah, I don't know how you... it can't be as simple as just sort of... No, but it can't be as simple as just sort of like, log in, log off. Or log off, log back in again.
But like, yeah, but if it's like $4.99 for this 6 hours, what do you get for the... is it just $4.99 and that's 6 hours and that's gone and you pay another $4.99 or...
I would suggest it's literally,
because that seems mad. That'd be very expensive very quickly.
What if it was $4.99 once that allowed you to play 6 hours of every game? And only 6 hours. That is a podcaster's dream. That's a practical press account for the modern person. I'd go in for that. That's not what it is.
No.
Nor possible. But hey.
But apparently people say it's going toe to toe with Stadia and in some ways better, but I can see some use cases for it, but for most people, is that really what they want?
Yeah,
access to games you already own on some other device, presumably implying that you can already play them. I don't know.
Right. Well, the question is, if the problem, is I can't play Apex Legends on the toilet, then do you do this? How elaborate does this game of 4D chess you have to play to construct a scenario where that's possible become, before you just snap and go, I'm going to buy a bathroom PlayStation?
It's funny, isn't it? Because the Stadia proposition has been, this is the service for, 2 billion people. It's not necessarily for the sort of high-end existing PC gamers. It's about the people who don't own a PC, and it opens up all of these PC games to those people, on existing or low-cost hardware. That's what their argument is. It's definitely what the service isn't right now, because there's no free tier, and it's kind of shaky as hell, and nobody's internet connection is reliable. A very small proportion of internet connections are reliable enough to actually support it properly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And also they've been going on about 4K and stuff. And if you're talking about 2 billion people, I think very, very, very small proportion of those people give a shit about 4K.
Right.
So it's really fucking muddled. Geforce, the only people who have heard of Geforce are the highbrow kind of PC elite who already have the machine.
Right. So another way of thinking about this is actually for 2 billion people thing is I think for the reasons you stated is a bit of I think that's not quite right. I think what these things actually are ways for people to kind of leap. So when people invest heavily in their entertainment setup, you're, tunneling a particular path for yourself. Whether it's a big console setup or movies or whatever, your home cinema or whatever it is. Once you made that investment, some people go on and invest sort of broadly, but a lot of people invest quite narrowly. And a system like this is a way for people to leap from one strand of that kind of investment to the other. But I still think you're operating within the ecosystem who are willing to spend a certain amount of money on their entertainment and investigate alternative options for getting things. So you're right that there's probably someone somewhere in the world with an amazing TV setup and great internet that they use for streaming 4K movies, because that's their passion, for which Stadia is an interesting idea because it allows them to suddenly have access to a high-end kind of gaming setup with no additional or minimal additional expense. I think it's actually a niche edge case than anyone can use this and it gives them access to games, because it just doesn't. I was joking about bathroom PlayStation, but the great, I think it's a useful touchstone. Your solution in this regard, your offering as a streaming service, has to be easier than going out and buying a PlayStation. It just has to be. And I don't think any of them are, right?
Yeah.
If you think of the ubiquity of the PlayStation 2 as a kind of device, that has led to a kind of mass understanding of what it is and how you go about getting and finding a video game. I just don't think any of these things are actually weirdly sort of accessible enough in terms of just conceptually accessible enough.
Well, updating my Geforce drivers is harder than going out and buying a PlayStation.
I haven't done it in months because I don't want to log in.
You need to point at all those different traffic lights and identify them carefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Every single time. Yeah.
I think sort of going back to the difference with this one. So this one, with Geforce, you get to play games you already own, or ones you buy on a service. That's for the people who are just dabbling and want to try it out. It's a better proposition than Stadia, where your purchase is locked to Stadia.
Right.
When you buy on Stadia, you better continue on Stadia then. With this one, at least it's somewhat,
I suppose it also depends. I mean, it could be attractive to me if it's really easy to turn off and on again whenever I feel the need. I could see buying a game like Control, which has facilities that my graphics card can't support for ray tracing, and just saying, I'll pay $4.99 this month on top of the price of the game just to see what it looks like on a super hot machine, some cloud fucking farm somewhere, and then turn it off after I've finished the game, or after 6 hours. Whichever comes first, I guess.
Right.
There is a niche use I've just thought of, which is very specific to you.
Oh.
Which is when you're not able to be at home, you can play games.
Yes, this is true. Yeah. Yeah. Traveling man.
Yeah, but would you?
No.
That's my issue with it. I just think it's solving a problem that it sounds like lots of people have, but I don't think lots of people have.
Yeah. So I think that the thing that I fear, which I think is going to be horrible, and I think it's inevitable, but right now it seems to be too difficult. And it's a thing that will make it actually have a reason to exist, is when it becomes the Netflix of games, when it has basically has all the games, or at least a lot of the games on it, and you pay your monthly subscription and you can play them as much as you like, whichever you like. And I think that's when this suddenly pops into sort of, into some sort of sense, because then, you don't have the installs. As journalists, we're familiar with the fact that I have access to a lot of games and I don't play them because each, 40 gigabyte game is a massive, great download. And, oh God, I've got to think about that. And then have I got the install space? And, that immediately gets rid of that for everybody. But of course, the Netflix of games things means that if people are dabbling in games, presumably the publisher, developer getting paid on the basis of the amount of time people are playing. And you can see immediately, the form of games is completely different. It becomes about retaining time, for all games, not just free to play. And I fear that future.
I could see that having
profoundly
huge distorting influence on the
but
shape
it feels
of games,
inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, Apple Arcade is essentially this, right?
But I think Apple Arcade's different in the sense that Apple Arcade is like this walled garden where these are specifically commissioned games, like a very tight
which is more like
selection
Netflix.
of games. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the new Netflix proposition rather than what Netflix promised to be way back.
I do wonder though, just about, obviously the massive if there is, if it works, and if and when it actually works reliably for the vast majority of people, it's a vast technical challenge just from the network infrastructure of the thing. That's one thing. But also, for me, like, I wonder about, I think you're absolutely right. Like, if it did work, it would certainly become an essential thing for, and it's certainly anyone who kind of works in games media or even works in the games industry, or people who are just super into games.
Normal people, like you.
Well, yeah, but I just don't know if the way an audience, particularly outside of that really, because if we're talking about this is the technology that broadens it beyond the kind of hobbyist sphere that knows every game that's coming out and is clued up and has all the hardware and stuff and expands it to everyone else. I don't think it solves a far more fundamental issue with the attractiveness of games beyond that boundary, right? Like,
so you're thinking about the 2 billion thing.
Yeah, like it's the thing I still don't buy because I don't think the reason that to X billion people aren't playing Assassin's Creed right now is because they can't summon it instantly to their phone. I think it is because they don't want to. And that's not to shame that game or people who like, hardcore games. It's just that there are tremendous and kind of extensive reasons why people don't know about games or don't think about games or don't consider games as things they might do. Why people play one game and one game exclusively for a long time, which doesn't really fit the Netflix model. Why would I pay a subscription if I'm just going to play FIFA because it's the game I like? Like, games fit into people's lives in a very different way to TV.
So Google has an answer for that. Like, cause I actually did a feature about it a while ago and I spoke to, so Jade Raymond said she's the head of, their internal studios at Stadia now. Yeah. She was Assassin's Creed, the producer back in the day. But, she said that they're thinking about that. They're expecting, with the 2 billion question in mind, if that does come to pass, they fully think that games will totally change because the audience is so much broader and all these different people coming to games and making them and, playing them and offering a market for them will broaden what games are. Yeah. The games they are right now are totally tailored to the kind of tiny rarefied sliver of people who play them. But like when it does become 2 billion, fuck. It's like what games are on mobile. It's not Assassin's Creed, but it fucking is a bunch of other games that sometimes aren't even recognizable to us as games.
Yeah, I completely understand that, but I just perceive a little bit of the chicken and egg problem there, where like you can solve the problem of expanding technical access to games, but you pay for that by getting by bringing the existing audience along with you, right? Like no one is solving both problems at the same time. Right? Like that's why the NVIDIA thing is an interesting example. It's like, well, we can, maybe this NVIDIA idea is the perfect R&D environment for this kind of technology because you offer a more, you don't target it at that 2 billion, you target it at the people who may not need it and then get it right and then expand it out. I don't know, but that's the problem for me is like, how do you sell this to people? The reason I picked Assassin's Creed is because that was the game that was used to demo the Stadia in the first place. Like, how do you sell this to people as an idea without rooting it in the industry that exists? And how do you make good on it if it works without not doing that? Without that not being your offering? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's a doomed idea necessarily. I just think that there are bigger complexities.
I think the Stadia's launch definitely has been a total, when writing the article, I was thinking, this is just ridiculous that they're making no internal games that kind of trade on its specific, functionalities and things, which are quite cool about streaming and whatnot. And, they're not actually demonstrating why it's good. They're getting existing games just running as they more or less do anyway. You're launching far too soon and it turns out that the tech isn't good in the wild, and it's, and so on. And And then, of course, you get all the kind of the news stories about 4K not being 4K and it running on medium settings and not the high settings and all this sort of stuff that means nothing to 2 billion people. But, you know, to the people who did buy into it, who are the high end anyway, do care about that. They launched too soon and it was really silly.
I just feel like it's one of those examples of, I just don't think the elevator pitch for this idea is actually as simple as you think. Like, it's sort of, it's, as soon as you start talking about it, I think we've ended up down this rabbit hole. You end up sort of these nested edge cases. It reminds me of the great, Randy Pitchford Battleborn tweet. You know, he tried to sort of pitch that game, the kind of hobby grade co-op, reactive esports consumer friendly hero action or something. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Wow.
Pip has it down pat.
But he does a very good Randy Pitchford impression.
Yeah. It's that sort of like
hat, cape, cane, everything. Sorry, go on.
But the reason I bring it, it's only because it's like one of those classic examples of like, there was an era where it's like every new game pitch is everything at once and trend chasing and trying to like, no clear sense of what problem it's solving or for whom or why anyone would care. And they all failed, without exception. And that's not a happy thing for the people who worked on them by any means, but it was because they were not solving a problem for anyone specifically, right? And I think that was almost like the core thing is like, if you're marketing something that is, I mean, not everything has to solve a problem, but like if you're marketing something that is designed to reach a wide audience, identify the way in which you're going to make life better quickly. Not like if and then and 4 weeks from now, and if this improves, then you'll have an experience that you can currently have.
You hadn't been asking for, but
it will be faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, I've seen a good segue. From Battleborn to Dude Huge.
Dude Huge.
And Lawbreakers.
Surely he hasn't been in the news with an ill-advised tweet / Instagram post.
Has he?
Yes. We are talking obviously of Clifford Bleszinski, aka Dude Huge, if you're still in the era of 2000?
Yeah, something like that.
Game industry.
So yeah, I mean a previous era of folly.
Yes, in which PC Gamer lauded him as a gaming god. So he he was talking about Lawbreakers, and he was listing some of his regrets and analysing perhaps why it didn't perform quite as well as he would have wished. And he suggested that it was too woke, that in fact the game was trying to put forward political agendas, progressive political agendas that just did not jibe with the audience. You just want to escape from games, escape from reality.
I know, I do, yeah.
Escape from reality, and they don't want that SJW stuff shoved down their throats. However, I wasn't really aware that there was any politics at all involved in Lawbreakers. It seemed like there is some context for this. Like, my role in this drama will be as the Clifford Bleszinski apologist. Okay.
I interviewed him for a postscript about the game after it came out, and I reviewed it for Edge. And he was so excited about it. It was so heartbreaking that it felt so badly. There was, if I remember right, like a minor kind of Gamergate adjacent, like small on the kind of Richter scale of these things, little tumult around the time the game came out because the female characters weren't sexy.
Right.
So I think he is getting this from something.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a reaction. I mean, I'm absolutely sure there were vocal elements within their community. Yeah, but I mean, that's not why the game.
No, I think what has happened is, emotionally, sometimes you just want to attribute a bad thing that happened to the thing that feels right to you, and it feels like he's pinning it to that out of a desire that be the case.
Yeah.
Rather than anything else. But this doesn't excuse what is a very funny Instagram post. But I think that it's not utterly baseless. It's not utterly baseless that some people were annoyed at the game for reasons adjacent to that. It is still not correct.
Well, it's so easily proven that it's not correct because Apex Legends also has, a really diverse and pointedly unsexy cast. Well, they are kind of sexy, but in a kind of crass way. And that's done really well. And, it's more or less a game which is in an adjacent / identical genre. So that's not it. That's not the reason.
It's not. No, I can tell you the reason. Do you know the reason that Lawbreakers failed? I may have said this on the podcast already.
No, please.
No one likes to look up. Seriously, I reckon this is the case. Making a shooter, don't ask players to look up too much. I think that's literally it. Jumping, too much jetpacks, too much kind of vertical movement mechanics.
Sure.
You've lost everyone but the tribes players.
Well, all our control schemes are geared towards movement in one single plane, really.
Really, yeah. A little bit, like maybe 45 degrees of tilt up, tilt down, but don't ask me to anticipate an incoming laser beam from someone who is almost directly above me and arriving from behind me.
Because even
I will never see them.
Titanfall doesn't have that much verticality.
No, it's the genius of wall running, right? It's like turns vertical movement into horizontal movement.
Yeah.
You still feel like you're going up.
Yeah. Poor Lawbreakers.
It was a good game. It was a really good game. And they deserved better. I don't know why I made that sound like it was a question.
I think that kind of, I think that I can't remember any characters in that game. There wasn't, I can't remember the style. I can't remember
They look pretty cool.
I quite liked them.
Yeah. No, they weren't super generic. Okay. They were sort of Apex Legends level generic, where they've taken a couple of different ideas which are quite well refined and distinctive and then merged them.
Yeah, they had the dignity to not I don't know, just hoist ideas from 2000s Dark Horse comics.
Yeah.
But they didn't have that many ideas. No. It's that in that, which is the same as Apex, I think, is in that sort of territory. I liked, I think it was Lifeline, the character I played, who was a lady with disco laser jet boots that also killed people. So you used them to propel yourself around, and then you could aim them at people's faces, which also propelled you backwards. I liked that.
That's okay. Good. That's okay.
She had a big Care Bear stare laser beam that kind of came out of her chest. That was good.
I definitely agree with you, Chris, that a lot of the reaction to it, because whenever Cliff Bleszinski says anything, it's always tied to Dude Huge, and and I think that any nuance in the fact that exactly what he said is always lost.
I mean, he also dropped a little line in there about how he didn't stick to his guns, basically, sort of with the vision that he had for the game, which sort of offloads the blame onto everybody else at his company.
Wasn't it funny?
Which is a little...
That's very true. Yeah, it was very... So on one hand, it seemed, as you were sort of saying, Chris, that he wanted this one reason where he looks quite good to be the reason why it failed.
Yeah.
And then, at the same time, he said it was everyone else's fault.
So one of the reasons why Cliff Bleszinski's he's writing a memoir at the moment. I really hope he finishes it and publishes it, because the previous excerpt was also great. And one of the reasons is it's actually super honest. He's not very filtered, and it's I don't know, that doesn't mean it's true, but it's certainly emotionally honest to what he wants it to be. Right? There's no kind of polish there. It is this sort of kind of complete sort of a guileless sort of you can read that Instagram post, and I think if you work in the games industry, you can read that Instagram post and know exactly what the boss key company Slack was like. No comms person has touched this. This is what that Slack looks like. In that one line about I think I should have put my foot down more about certain design things, there's a universe of meetings that you can, I think, profoundly visualize. It's like a VR experience. You can go swimming in that. It's.
You could probably also go swimming in the kind of anger that his former colleagues had in probably reading it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I can only enjoy this remotely at a remove, but.
I still quite like Cliff Bleszinski.
Oh yeah, but it's the guilelessness. It's that open guilelessness.
Yeah.
It's the same guile that kind of had him in a Ferrari and being proud of it. The same guile, in fact, that has him still talking about the fact that he has sex with women. Or he's older than me or the same age as me or something, and he's still quite proud to be having sex with women.
Yeah. There's something about that I find charming, honestly. When I interviewed him for it was, I really liked the game, and it was nice how enthusiastic he was about it. And it genuinely was painful to watch it then fail. Because it was like, it wasn't, and it wasn't sort of bullshit over promisey, it's going to take over the world stuff. He was just super proud of a game he'd made and really pleased that he'd gone out on his own and he'd done it, right? Like he turned around a good video game and and it's, we're talking to Nexon and we're doing all this stuff. And then, 6 months later,
From one industry figurehead to another. Now,
wow, that's good.
Yeah, thank you. Dan Houser has left Rockstar.
He's left the house.
Yeah, brilliant. Did we have any more insight? It's interesting. I don't know.
The other one is the housist.
It's exfiltrated house. Well, the standard writing at Rockstar is going to go up through the roof.
I wonder how much influence he had on Red Dead 2, actually, because it's probably the least Rockstar feeling game. I've said this on the podcast before, but it doesn't have any of the kind of Rockstar japery. Really, actually, having said that, almost immediately after I did that podcast where I said this, I then played a mission in which you beat up a mentally disabled man for laughs. Yeah. So that was
the day after that. On that very one, I electrocuted someone to death.
Oh, did you?
There was a quest chain in which I electrocuted a criminal.
Oh, I didn't do that.
I think he was a kiddie fiddler or something as well, like classic Rockstar stuff. It was that exact kind of set of things.
Brass eye, but not the jokes.
Yeah.
Those are side missions though, right?
Yes.
I mean, I don't mean to say, so it's fine. But what I mean is that it's interesting that material was sidelined, essentially, and put into something which everything I missed, even though I thought I'd done nearly everything in the game. Yeah, but that was the only mission which I felt was really, maybe there were like two other conversations which I thought were a bit Rockstar-y, weary sigh kind of reaction from. But it has a lot of writers on that game, and only one Dan Houser on it. So I don't know percentage-wise. I don't know where I'm going with that.
I think what you've identified is that no one knows what this means.
No,
because no one really knows what they're working on. Like it's probably like GTA 6, I guess. It makes sense. No one knows what that is or what it would be like and what it would be like with or without him or what stage it's at. So it could be that it's all written and GTA 6 might not come out for 3 years, but it might be housery as hell when it comes out.
Well, I don't think he's been working for a while because he took a big old, I think it said something about him having taken a big old holiday for a long time and now he's leaving afterwards.
Right. And, also extremely wealthy people sometimes just stop working.
Yeah. That would be nice.
I mean, as in, like, retire, not like blue screen. Like, that'd be better.
Yeah.
That was a good take.
Yes. Can you imagine if just like, I don't know, one day, like, I don't know, Michael Bloomberg or someone just went like, bonk. And just stopped, like, just looking into space.
Pretty good.
A little chuckle for myself there.
What have you been playing, Chris?
I have returned to Star Wars Battlefront II because they've updated it a ton and I was curious. So I went back. I think it was because, I know some people who worked on it and they were tweeting about updates and things. I know that it's been getting continuous updates to the multiplayer mode, which I think I must have spoken about on the pod a bunch. Never really liked. I think single player is fine. And it's such a weird game. It is starting to move in a direction that I wish it had always been in. But it is riddled with weirdness. It has a really big community. One of the other reasons that I played it again was because I have an Instagram account for my miniatures, for like photos of things, models I've painted. And all the algorithm wants to show me is Star Wars memes, basically. And a lot of those, like, accounts do like Battlefront tips because the game is pretty big. Like, and so it'll be like, sort of clickbaity Instagram stuff. Like, here are the star cards to use if you're playing as Kylo Ren, etc. That kind of thing. And it reminded me that it existed. So I went and checked it out. So the headline change and the thing that I'm really pleased that they've done is there's now a mode called Supremacy, which I think has been in one form or another for a while. which is functionally a kind of multi-stage, kind of big battlefield type, map where there are 2 capital ships and a central kind of ground assault area. Teams fight over capture points. If one team wins that stage of the map, they then rush to get to shuttles to invade the other team's capital ship, and then it's a multi-stage objective capture kind of attack defend sequence to blow up the opponent's capital ship, which is a perfectly good battlefield type structure. The big difference is they are divided by era. So you have it's at the moment it's just either Clone Wars or new movies. And the maps and special characters and hero characters are specific to that era, which might not sound like a big deal, but it makes a big difference to the atmosphere, because Battlefront 2 as a default, for whatever reason, I think maybe for mechanical reasons, while the maps will be themed to a particular era and that will change the skins of the various character classes that don't change, all of the heroes are available in every era. So you could be playing the Battle of Hoth, but then here comes like General Grievous and Kylo Ren or something like that. And that's fine in the kind of like Star Wars Smash Brothers style kind of hero battle thing, which the game does have. But for me, it has always defeated what I think is the actual purpose of that game, which is that it looks and sounds really, really extraordinary. And it's this big kind of immersive Star Wars battle. So as soon as you treat the fiction or the world as something to just be sort of thrown about from that has no inherent value, where coherence doesn't have any value, I think it loses a lot. Like, it takes me out of it to be in, I don't know, the Clone Wars and then Darth Vader runs around the corner, because this is a story at the end of the day. And if people wanted, if people were playing this for the game fundamentally, first and foremost, they'd probably be playing Battlefield. They're playing this because they want Star Wars, and it's always felt weird to me that they didn't have modes where you can just play with the stuff that fits in that environment. And the fact that they've done that is really good. It has necessitated, so in the Clone Wars era, it kind of works really well. It's necessarily the separatist heroes are General Grievous, Count Dooku, and Darth Maul, and on the goodie side, it's Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan, and Yoda.
But are they really good guys? Because from my perspective, it's the Jedi that are evil.
Indeed. I think they got the voice actor who did Anakin in the cartoons, but he does sound super weird, which is just very funny. He sounds like sounds like a teenager putting on a really deep voice, which is maybe appropriate to the character because foreboding, foreshadowing. But for the sort of Rise of the Resistance era, the new movie era, they had to expand it a little bit. So 2 heroes came from the base game into this new mode. On the First Order side, you have Captain Phasma and Kylo Ren. And on the Resistance side, you have Rey and Finn, but they both needed to be joined by new characters. So I'd like you to guess, who did they pick to join Rey and Finn?
Well, the obvious choice is Poe, so I assume it isn't.
Lando Calrissian.
And who do you think they would pick to join Kylo Ren and Phasma on the First Order evil side?
Richard E. Grant.
Just as himself.
Yeah, no, I'm going to double down on that. I agree as well.
Well, neither of you said BB-8 and BB-9E, the evil BB-8.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
How does playing as them work?
Well, if you thought it wouldn't work and therefore you'd never do it, you're wrong, because what it means is there's a untargetable, invisible, mass electrocuting hell ball that bounces around like...
oh wow!
Like out of fucking nowhere, whatever you're trying to do, and then you're dead because, I don't know, BB-9E has like an omni taser that can just chase and murder you wherever you are. BB-8, you know that one bit in The Force Awakens where he uses like a little grapple line that he shoots out of himself to thing? That is turned into like an AoE whip attack, just fucking taking out stormtroopers at the back of the knee. I mean, he's always been a sort of anti-capitalist hero. It's established in, or an anti-fascist hero at least, that's established in The Last Jedi, where he shoots coins at someone in the weakest sequence in the film. Which I'm surprised they didn't do as an attack, to be honest.
Anybody who's hit by it gets credits.
They leave a lot of stuff on the table. You can't roll up to someone and set them on fire with his little lighter, but he can fucking kill a guy. Like, that's something he can definitely do. And so it turns what is already a super weird game into that's it's just a strange experience to be tasered to death by a little ball
that you never saw.
that you can't see coming. Or like, you can hear Kylo Ren coming, partly because the hero characters, most of them never shut the fuck up. And they almost don't exclusively talk in lines from the film, but sort of out of order and in the wrong places, which is, could be just sort of a strange experience.
Adam Driver's gonna be a bit of a mood killer, because he's just, I can't do Adam Driver.
So I'm going to give you the relative experience, right? Because getting killed by Kylo Ren, I know this will frame something. Getting killed by Kylo Ren can be quite an exciting experience because, you'll be, defending a point or something or trying to support your team, and sort of, you'll hear the sort of vroom of a lightsaber, and then you'll hear like, I'll show you the power of the blah blah. And then you'll be frozen, and he'll have done his sort of force freeze thing, and then he'll chop you up, right? The equivalent,
sounds fun.
The equivalent experience, yeah. I mean, it's a light thrill, I would say. And then, the equivalent is you're standing at, a point defending, there's explosions and things, and everything's fucking beeping because it's Star Wars. And then a small, football-sized black object electrocutes you and everyone you know to death and bounces on its merry way, and you can barely tell it was ever there. That's not necessarily a problem, because Battlefront is such a weird game. I play a lot of shooters, and I played shooters all my life, and Battlefront, I literally had to Google a YouTube video to make sure I wasn't just doing shooting wrong. Like, I just wanted to watch someone else play it to get a sense of what it's supposed to feel like when you shoot a gun. Because, and I've never had to do this in a game before, because the blasters and things feel so slow and so weird, and it always feels like they shoot like half a second after you press the trigger. And it feels, and Battlefront I think has never been a shooter in that sense first and foremost, but it just feels so weird.
Maybe that's canon. That explains their terrible aim.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just feels so strange that but it's so popular that I knew there must be.
Yeah, and you're getting killed as well.
Yeah, you're getting killed. Like, I'm dying instantly. Well. I'm dying instantly all of the time. And not always because a ball has found me, but, but other people, I shoot them, and it'll look like it hit them, but it didn't hit them, or I'll get like a damage bloom, but it'll do like a gnat's whisker of health to them, and then they will look at me, and then I'll die. And so I had to I went and watched a YouTuber who just makes Battlefront guides, not for the tips, although some of the tips are helpful, just for what they were doing, and it didn't answer every question, but it did establish that, it's a game you play in third person. That's just a thing. It's a third person shooter. It's 100% a third person shooter. It does make it a lot easier.
So some sort of auto aim if you go in third person.
No, it's not that. I think it's because a lot of it is about the forward roll. You can do a forward roll all the time. And, because being a ball, very powerful. And for a brief moment, you were the ball. And so a lot of it is doing forward rolls in and out of cover. And there's a game there, and using your recharge abilities when they're off cooldown in the right way. It's fine. It feels real janky. Really janky. It's strange to me because Battlefield has really satisfying shooting, I think. Feels good to shoot a man. I don't know why this doesn't. Really doesn't.
It also contrasts with the feel of the shooting in the campaign as far as I remember,
which feels fine.
Yeah.
There's something about it that it just doesn't feel right to me at all, and never has. That's not a new problem. There's so much weird stuff. There's also the fact that a lot of people who played it have been playing it for years, so they've maxed out every class and things. That's one of the reasons you die really easily. You can unlock sort of permanent big passive bonuses to things characters can do, and that means that you get killed by someone, you see their hand of star cards pop up, which is essentially the bonuses they've got equipped, and they're all at max rank and things, and it's so easy to offset your why did I die thoughts, not onto a strategic error that you made, but the fact that the guy's got 4 purple upgrades to damage and health increase, health boosts equipped. So maybe that's why you didn't do any damage to them and they did damage to you. That's just design crime, as far as I'm concerned. Just design crime, straight to jail. And then, there's some also weirdness. I've been playing that supremacy mode. And in it, you do the battle sequence, which can take 20 minutes, 25 minutes to win the ground battle. And then you go up to the Star Destroyer or whatever it is you're invading, which is like a 10-minute sequence. And in my experience of playing it, the attackers always won that. So that would then end the round. I found out earlier, after a really grueling, battle, that if the attackers, I always assumed that if the attackers lose that invasion, ship blowing up sequence, the defenders win. They don't. You go and play the ground sequence again. So it becomes this really weird thing.
Then you push, then if
they win, they go in your ship.
Right.
And it just ends when someone blows up someone else's ship. Huh. But as far as I could tell, this could just go indefinitely. Like there's no real tie condition as far as I can tell.
Maybe there's a game that just is going, like it's just never been won.
Yeah, exactly.
People come in and out of it.
The Star War, like it was, and I actually quit, not because, normally I see games through, but I quit because I've had enough. I've seen all the stages of this battle. Like I'm done. And there's still, I don't know, it's such a strange thing. It feels like there's such a good game to be made with its bones. But like even the hero system, so you earn points as you play, and then when you respawn, you can choose to spawn instead as a special, either a vehicle, like a walker or something, or a special troop type. So that guy in The Rise of Skywalker who goes, hello, once, you can be him if you like, as much as you like. You can cash in 2,000 points to be him. But if you have 4,000 points, then that's when you get a chance to be a Ball or Rey. But the problem is you got to snatch this opportunity when the previous person to be this hero is defeated. And so if you don't happen to die around the same time that they do, you're not going to play them. Yeah. And I've played maybe a couple of hours of it over the course of this week to kind of get back into it. I've played as a hero for a substantial amount of time once, and that was earlier today when I got to be Anakin for a while. And that was cool. Until I got stuck on a wall and shot to death by battle droids, which is...
That kind of makes sense though. They want it to be mega special. They want it to be, an extraordinary thing you got to do.
So I think you have identified something, which is, I think this is a game that children love.
Yes.
And I think there's a benefit to scarcity that you feel really profoundly if you're a kid talking about games in the playground, where it's like, last night I actually got to be Yoda for a bit and I did amazingly. I killed everybody and I won, even if you're lying. Fortnite's full of this as well, like one-off experiences. Battle Royale is kind of the epitome of this. It's like Battle Royale is a game that takes 100 people and makes one of them happy.
But in this one, everybody gets a turn.
But they don't. Because it's not a turn system, you know what I mean? Like, if you were to design it well, I think players would have like a set number of hero tokens per battle, and once you'd exhausted them, you didn't get to become the hero again. Because guess what? Guess who is the person who dies closest to the hero who dies? The person playing that hero. So if they've got enough points, they just load back in as that hero. Right? It's not a good system. It reminds me of plane camping in Battlefield, where people would just wait on the respawn screen to jump into the thing they actually wanted to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're right that the spectacle of it and the scarcity of certain roles and things is like exciting. I don't think it's good design. And it still doesn't feel right that like, it turns it into a weirdly sort of, this is what's so interesting about it is, in that regard, it's you have to treat it as a theme park experience. The levels are beautiful. I still love Star Wars and care about I like to use it to basically like get a sense of the scale of different space objects for my role-playing campaign, so that when I describe them to people, I can get it about right. Mm-hmm. The new Resistance
level. The number
level.
of BB-8s high.
Yeah, exactly. The new level for the Resistance era stuff has a landed ship in it that I've not seen landed before. So I was like, oh, how big this is. And I was like getting a sense of how big it was and where it could possibly land. That was interesting to me, and possibly only me. But it has a benefit as a kind of very passive experience, which I think is also maybe a calculated thing, but also part of its utility is you just sort of play it, and I don't think you really try and win it because it's pointless to try. I think that's what Yoda said. You just sort of experience the star noises and the doings of the toys.
The doings of the toys.
And it's very much that. And that is possibly an astute bit of, bar setting for the mass audience that this game will reach, maybe unlike others of its kind. The thing I would say about that is it's wild to me that it's taken this long for them to match that. Come and play with the heroes you love in the setting you love and don't kind of worry about the game thing with settings that actually make sense. Like that the base game is still this really weird mishmash where it fights your immersion in it constantly by, also having this box of toys mentality where, the Starfighter mode, which I quite like, is still like this, where you'll be doing a, Clone Wars era space battle, and then Poe will show up as an X-Wing, and it just doesn't feel right. Or like Darth Vader will show up on the baddie side, so on the wrong side of a war that he did fight in. Like, you know, like...
Yeah, but I think this is your adult brain.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
those
when you're a
sound
kid,
like, they don't sound like concerns that kids have.
I don't know.
Remember when you're playing with actual physical toys?
My kid brain was like this as well.
You're like, oh, well, the Thundercats definitely can't turn up in this combat.
Yeah.
It's, really?
Yeah.
They were all in there. He-Man, Thundercats, everything.
I get
They weren't even the same scale.
See, for me, it stems from, like, I don't know, I've spoken about this before, but like, I think there is a view of Star Wars as a collection of iconic things that you cram into a box, and a view of Star Wars as a universe that you tell stories in. And what's really interesting is one of those views consistently works and the other one consistently fails, at least critically.
Yeah.
Like,
I just imagine, were you really angry during Toy Story? You're like, those characters would never exist in the same canon.
I didn't relate to the boy in Toy Story.
Right.
Like, I wasn't angry per se. Just, it was an alien sort of experience that you would do that. I had Star Wars toys and like Thunderbirds, I guess, and they never met. Like, they weren't the right size. Like, it didn't feel like, right. This probably does say more about me than it does about
I think
children.
it says a lot about you.
Look, coherence in world building matters. Damn it. Said I, age 6, to my friend Christian. Nonetheless, I do welcome them making some steps towards coherence, because I do think that's kind of actually what a lot of the audience wants. Like, I think that, if you look at what Star Wars things are, commercially, at least critically and sort of fan successful at the moment, which aren't, then there's a really clear correlation there. So ultimately I think it's better than Rise of Skywalker, and that's my review.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you recommend it?
No.
Okay.
So, like, it's not a good game. I like the noises and sounds. What do you want?
The doings of the toys.
The doings of the Starmen. Yeah.
Alex, have you been doing anything with toys recently?
Nope. I haven't played an awful lot recently for one reason or another, but I have played Increpe's newish game.
Oh yeah, try and pronounce that, please.
Okay,
for me.
I'll have a go. I've got it up on the screen here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Schwerkraftprojektionsgerät.
Solid effort.
Which is which is a gravity projector. That's what it translates to.
I see.
From German.
Gravity projector.
It's a puzzly game.
Looks like Tetris, but more hellish.
Also, more Tetris. 4 times Tetris. So you're playing Tetris, in 4 different directions at once. So you imagine your piece that you're going to drop is in the middle of the screen, and then to the top and the bottom on the left and the right are 4 wells. And when you drop the piece, it will fall simultaneously into each of these wells. So any movement in the X and Y axis will be different, mean different things for each of the wells, as it will on the Y axis and the X axis will just. So basically, you've got your L-shaped piece.
Yeah.
It's going to sit nicely in one of them, depending on how you rotate it. It's going to sit well nice in one of your wells, and it's going to sit well nasty in the opposite well, and then it's going to sit nicely in the it's really hard. Is what it is, because you're constantly thinking, every choice you make is going to be good for one of the wells and shit for the other one, in by and large. And it's so brain meltingly difficult to figure out anything out before you actually drop it. You get little preview, where it's going to drop. I should say that you choose when to drop it. You get as much time as you like to move the piece around in the the holding area before you press the button to drop it. So,
right.
So to explain, the movement is going to be across the width of the vertical and horizontal, the vertical wells.
Yeah.
And across the width of the horizontal ones. So you've got a square of area in which you can move the piece.
Yeah, I can see it.
Therefore, changing its position in each of the wells.
Huh.
But
is this interesting though? Because there's lots of ways in which you can make Tetris harder, and I don't know that they're all.
So I thought, no, it probably, like on my first go, I thought, no, this is just ridiculously difficult. It's really, really fucking hard. But then I started to notice there was some really interesting stuff going on, actually. I don't think I'll really stick with it. I don't think that it's a sort of profoundly deep game. It is a fun little kind of experiment. So the scoring system is also horrible. My high score is 2. And I believe that's a perfectly respectable score.
Okay.
The scoring system is, you don't get them for each of the lines you clear. Every time you clear a line in one of the wells, its requisite line clearance number goes up. Your overall score is the maximum number where all of the wells have got to. So if you have 2 of the wells having cleared 2 lines in them, and 2 wells with 1 line cleared in them, in each of them, your score is 1, not 2. So you'll need to get 2, you need to clear 2 lines in all of them. But what you tend to find, you get this sort of shifting. So right at the very start of the game, it's just angst-ridden when you're choosing where to put something, because you've got so much choice over where you put stuff.
Yeah.
You kind of oh God, it's awful there and awful there and good there and good there, but oh God, what do I do? As you'll know, as things get worse, but your choices actually go down, and you kind of going, oh, okay, well, this is such a hard game that I'm kind of accept the fact that it's sort of I'm making bad decisions.
So is your fate kind of set right at the beginning then with your earliest choices?
So your fate, so one of the weird things about it, so with normal Tetris, you can move your piece as it's falling, right? So when you get overhangs, you can slip stuff underneath them, so you can correct mistakes, or simply correct stuff where you've put stuff down with an overhang, and that's, it's a legitimate kind of strategy. In this one, you can't. When you put it down, it goes donk, 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 and it goes straight down. You don't get any chance to jink them. So any gap that you leave at all, and this is actually a freeing thing, any gap that you leave in a line, you're never going to be able to fix it. It's fucked. It's fucked forever. But that's actually, I found it quite freeing, because you just go, well, that line's gone, but what I can do is focus on the next line, which is going to be possible. And you start seeing that kind of actually, okay, that one is fucked, but I can probably keep it going, because it's game over as soon as any part of a block goes over the line at the top of the well. As long as you can sort of keep the game going, you're still in there. So you can kind of go, okay, well, I can squeeze a line there, but things are bad there, so I'll play that one nicely over there. And so it's sort of, your pendulum of care swings between the 4 wells, where you kind of okay, now this one I've got to really care about because I can make a line. This one, in order to get my score up, I really want to make a line, so I'm going to focus on this one. And this one, I'm about to die, so I'm going to focus on, And so actually, it's a game in which your the choices you make are always going to be shit somewhere. So it's a game in which you learn where to care about. And that's actually quite a cool little kind of thing to kind of learn through. And I really enjoyed it, actually, for the time it is. And 2 is a good score.
You're not going to go back to it, though?
I'm probably going to sort of dabble, put, a few goes a couple of days. But I think there's a limit. It's so fucking hard that you're going to I can't really, often with puzzle games like this, you can feel the skill ceiling. You can say, this one, I just sort of, just so chaotic.
It's
so
for someone.
Chaotic. I expect there's some people that really can pre-figure stuff. Oh, I've got the shitty. So in this game, the straight 4 piece, at the start of the game is kind of good, because you can nestle in or lie down, listen to a side or lie down neatly. But about 2 or 3 moves into it, it's a fucking horror, because it lies across the well. On 2 of the axes, in 2 of the wells, it's going to lie right the way across the well, and there's nothing you can do about it. And, unless you've, but the block, the block shape, the square, it's lovely. It's lovely, even
sturdy,
shape.
Dependable, rotational symmetry.
Yeah, beautiful. So it's just all of the pieces take on this sort of different character, which often shifts through the game as well.
Tricky T-shape.
Yeah, fucking T-shape. Yeah, you get at the start of the game, and it's the most. Oh God, it's horrible, because you've got 2.
You've got to fuck
2
one.
gaps. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna. Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. Another little kind of neat thing about it is that when you let go of it, when you sort of commit your piece, it does a duk 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 duk, a little bleepy noise as it moves up and then hits whatever surface it's going to land on. As your wells fill, the do 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 gets shorter and shorter, giving this a greater sense of panic. And like, it's just completely just emergent from just the simple idea of just having it go do 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 as it goes onto the well. It's really neat. Like, it sounds really minor. It sounds so minor, but like actually it has this sort of, oh God, the wells are filled. But yeah, 2, beat me.
No.
I challenge you.
I don't think I will.
Should I say it again? So it's Schwerkraftprojektionsgerät.
That's pretty good. Do you want to say it sexily?
All right.
Even sexier.
Schwerkraftprojektionsgerät.
Beautiful.
That well's fucked.
Oh.
What have you been doing, Marty?
Well, there's 2 games, that were released in this last week or so. Not for broadcast, which is a really...
I've wanted to know what you think about this.
Well, so it's a really interesting looking game, where you seem to be in an alternative 1980s Britain. You seem to have stumbled into the control room for some TV studio, and all the TV studio is running sort of like inane shows / propaganda for the government, and you have some way of manipulating those shows, for better or worse. And it's all kind of live, not live, but pre-recorded actual humans rather than CG in these videos. And you're switching between channels and crafting the narrative that the nation sees. And then there was also, Through the Darkest of Times, which, looks like a very serious game about, resistance during the Third Reich in Germany. And I thought for no particular reason, it seemed quite apposite at this moment to learn how to resist the onslaught of fascism. Mm-hmm. But then I realised...
You just need to be a little ball. And you just roll at their legs and they can't see you. And then you whip them to death.
Well, had that option been open, maybe I would have persisted with those games. But I realised that actually I didn't really want to learn how to resist fascism. What I wanted to do was be screamed at by a disemboweled horse and then be eaten by dogs in a swamp.
You've been playing
Hunt Showdown.
Yeah.
which you've already pretty fulsomely described in a previous episode. But it is just the most kind of febrile hellscape that I've seen rendered in a game, and thus a pleasant respite from from today's Britain. Yeah, it's really,
the horse is too tired to scream.
It's horrible. I really love it. It's so weird that I love it as much as I do, having just had a podcast where I said that I'd gone off shooters completely because, during at least one game, I killed 2 men and I shouted, "Yes, I love killing men!" I didn't even intend to say those words. They just bubbled out of me, my id. Beautiful. So yeah, I've really connected with late 1890s cursed bayou game Hunt Showdown. It's got a really interesting history. Do you know the history of the game?
I know. No, not really.
So it was being made by the studio which was Crytek USA, which was previously the studio that was making Darksiders, but then that studio got shut down. The Darksiders IP got bought up by THQ, I think, or some blah, 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 blah. But anyway, after they shut down, one of the Yearly brothers who owns Crytek decided to snatch the head of that studio up and allow them to found Crytek USA, whereby then they rehired a lot of the people who were from the Darksiders studio. And so originally Hunt Showdown was meant to be, it was called Hunt something, Horrors of the Gilded Age, I think it was called. And it wasn't actually a multiplayer game. It was a co-op, game set, but a campaign-based game, set in large procedurally generated environments, similar theme. And they were working on that for a number of years, and then, they didn't get paid for a while, and a lot of the staff left, and including the former head of the Darksider studio. And then it was shuttered, more or less. I think it's still there to provide support for CryEngine, but otherwise it's not a development studio anymore. And so development then switched back to Crytek Homeland, and they turned what assets they had into Hunt Showdown, which is a great multiplayer game.
Wow, that's wild. It's one 'cause it's just a specific game. Like, it does not feel like, like, Christ, what do we do with all these horse screaming and zombie dog assets?
Because I was thinking you were going to say, like, there was one person, the champion, and they made it in their spare time and all that kind of story.
No, but I think that is it. I mean, that's exactly what happened, right? They were left with a bunch of assets. They didn't have the kind of development bandwidth to make it into the full single player / co-op mega adventure that it was going to be, so they used some environments from it to be the foundation for a multiplayer game.
We've got some really uncomfortably sharp tin cans.
Yeah. We've got lots of guns that look like they would give you tetanus just by looking down the scope of them.
Gives you tetanus.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to briefly recap what it is. It is a multiplayer game, team-based multiplayer game. Teams of up to 3 people. You all enter the map. You're all kind of grotty-looking cowboys, basically. And
Cow people,
yes, indeed. It's got a very good and diverse range of characters that you don't necessarily have entire choice over who you pick, because they are basically given to you. And you search the map for clues. These clues tell you where the boss monster is in the map. You go and kill the boss monster as quietly as you can. And then you
with
banish
a pillow. Well, it's
hammers usually, but because gunshots are very, very loud, and the reason that that's a problem is that every other player and group of players on the map is your enemy, and they will come and they will steal the bounties that you've gained from killing this boss, and they will escape themselves, having left your corpse to sink rotting slowly into the bayou. And it creates just a really good range of incredibly different multiplayer shooter dramas. So there's the sneaky let's not wake the monsters bit, where you're sneaking around the swamp, trying to kill things as quietly as you can, because you know if you fire a single shot, then another team will descend on you and fuck you up. And then obviously there's the PvE against the boss itself. And, there may be PvP along the way where you hear other gunshots, and then you're kind of trying to sneak around, trying to get the jump on another team. And then as soon as you've killed the boss, it turns into assault on precinct 13? Yes. Because there's 100, you have to banish the boss, and this is like just a thing that takes 100 seconds basically. And as soon as you start doing that, everybody knows where you are. It appears on the map. And so you need to fortify where you are basically, and make sure you've locked down all the possible entrances, and then there's a siege, basically, where there's a big standoff between you, and maybe there's multiple teams outside who are all killing each other, or indeed choosing not to kill each other so that they can try and kill you, and then they kill each other. And then there's usually some kind of hell for leather chase across the map as you try and pelt towards one of the appointed exits. And then maybe you just get there and get fucked up by some guy who's sitting in the reeds and just pops you through the head as you try and wait for your extraction. And so, but all of these things are they have a very different pace and flavor and level of tension. And, it's amazing that the game can juggle all these things in such a coherent way. It's really good. I fucking love it. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I started playing it. Maddening. I just want to play it all the time.
Are you consistently playing it with a party?
Yes. And
that's, I think, what you need to do. It's not the same game by yourself.
No, there is a mode where you can play by yourself, but
Have you tried it at all?
Didn't like it, yes. It's sort of like a cut down version of the main mode. I think what purpose a sort of solo mode should serve is to sort of tutorialize you in the game and give you a sort of consequences free go, and essentially allow you to play with all the tools and stuff like this. But there's a little too much going on in it for that to be possible. You still need a level of sort of map awareness to be able to be successful at it. So you're still sort of you're not hunting down clues. I think you're going to different points, and you basically interact with a thing, and then you've interacted with 4 things, then a wellspring opens, and only one of you can be saved. And it's all a little bit too complicated for like a just onboarding mode.
Yeah.
And what I really want, is is to have that easy entrance into it where I just like, okay, what do all these weapons do? I want to be able to use these weapons in a way in which only I die and not my entire team. Because that is too much of I don't want to let people down, basically, in the main mode. But that isn't that. And they don't have, but it would just, I mean, it would be better if there was just a battle royale mode, like a really bare bones battle royale mode. It wouldn't be very good, but it would be helpful.
Yeah.
And the main mode is, it's interesting because I played it now a lot with, Jim Rossignol of Big Robot, who is a very good hunt daddy. He's shown me all the ropes, and he has a sort of level of map awareness, which I don't think a new player would gain for maybe 60 hours. He'll hear a noise which is completely unidentifiable to me and be like, oh, somebody died at Salter's farm. And you're like, what the fuck? And you look at the map and like Salter's farm is like, I don't know, 3 kilometers away. And you're like, how did he know that was there? Or that was what happened? But not only does he know that, but he also knows that as a result of that, players will be beginning to move to another location and he should go over here by doing a big loop around the map in order to get the drop on them from somewhere else. And that's just a kind of geographic kind of expertise that is essential in the game, but is just impossible to get without just being in it for hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, and my other sort of complaint with it in terms of being a noob is that it's got quite, in other ways, it's quite good for onboarding players because you get free hunters at the beginning. It has a weird sort of escalation sort of earning system where you're buying new hunters basically with coins, even though it's a premium game. But it still has this sort of grind mechanic, which I feel is sort of unnecessary. And, as a result
kind
of that,
penalizes bad players, really.
Well, it penalizes new players, and
you get quite a lot of stuff to start with, though, don't you?
Right.
Or does that run out quite quickly?
Well, this is what I'm getting to. I'm in the squeezed middle currently. So at the beginning of the game, you get a bunch of free characters who don't know how to use really, but I mean, they will have a lot of silenced pistols, and silenced pistols are hugely important in that game because it allows you to take out the many zombies and other monsters that inhabit the level quietly. And that's really important unless you want to be, ganked by high level players. But then you reach a certain point and, training mode finishes. I think it's like level 24 or something like this. And suddenly your characters can die permanently. You can't, so anything you've done to level up that character is gone if they perish, or you can retire them, for XP, which will help you unlock other things. But this also means that, the characters that you start, being able to get no longer have that bounty of silenced weaponry, and the silenced weaponry is now something that you need to unlock in order to access at a much, much higher level. And you need to start using pistols a great deal in order to get the pistol which has the silencer. But of course you're not going to use the pistol because it's not as effective in a lot of combat situations against players as a rifle, and it's really loud, so you're not going to use it in PvE. And so I'm in this weird situation where I feel like I've had a bunch of my toys taken away, and yet I still can't, so I can't go toe to toe with the environment, and I can't go toe to toe with more experienced players. Apparently things will speed up the more, XP I earn, and it's a pretty quick to rank up. But at the moment I feel pretty useless because, especially if I play, with 2 other people who have really good high-level range weaponry, because they're going to engage at a range at which I simply can't. And so I just stand sort of behind them, waiting.
Also, they're putting you into matches sort of with other players that are way above you as well.
Yeah. Or, I mean, the other choice in that situation is that I then go into a range where I am effective, but I'm going to be on my own. Without the support of my team. And so it's sort of slightly awkward. I wish there was a kind of way that they could massage that so it didn't make me feel like
you could go forward. They're taking them out of seat. Little do they know someone else is coming in for close range instead of being taken out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's me, so I'm not.
I've seen you. You took out. There was an extremely chaotic. So we played early last week, and there was extremely chaotic battle in a small copse, and me and Jim were dead. You'd been dead, but had been revived, and you went on a spree and saved the entire day.
It's true. That was complete luck. It's because I wouldn't have got the headshot on that guy, but I walked over a big branch and it pulled my reticle up. But in a few other circumstances that I remember really well and will probably have read out at my funeral, they were I really acquitted myself incredibly well. Killed 2 guys. With lovely headshots once, and then killed a guy who was shooting us from a barn. And I shouted, "I shot him, and he didn't shoot me."
I did it, Dad. I did it.
I did. Yeah.
I'm Daddy.
Be proud of me, Jim. Did I do good? And then I died while hiding under what's it called? One of the things that people sit at.
Veranda.
Porches.
Porch.
Elevated porch. Is that still a
Veranda,
porch?
both are good.
The judges weighed in.
Yeah.
They're both good.
Yeah. I thought I saw Jim getting shot ahead of me, so I scurried under there. And then, I hadn't been seen by this other hunter who was coming up. I was like, right, I'm going to take him out. Obviously I missed. And then I died in a crawl space, which is probably how I deserve to go.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah. I need to play more of it.
Can we play it together?
I'd like to.
Really fun.
I'd like to. I haven't played it. I played it last year again, but I was so stuck in the single player mode.
Tap me up. I'll be there.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
We will lose the Jim Rossignol spider sense though.
But that's fine. We'll be playing lower rank other players.
I'd like to get everyone into Mordhau. That's my Grim Man simulator at the moment of choice.
I will play that. If you play...
yeah, alright. Yeah. Because that's my... I fucking love killing game. It just feels so nice.
Dad, I hit him with the hammer!
I know, I had a great moment. It's such for some reason they've made murdering big dudes feel fucking incredible in that game. For some reason it was what I wanted to play after 11 PM last Thursday. And just go into a room and just get into a fight with a lot of big, bald, sweaty men and, bring me Zweihander. Anyway, there's a great moment where I was in the battle royale mode and it was the last 2, and I had a decent set of equipment, and the guy in front of me had like a huge Pavis shield, like this massive shield and a huge poleaxe, and he'd set up in this little shed, and I just ran in and I realized that that moment where you realize you made the right decision, which doesn't happen a lot in games, particularly in multiplayer games where you die a lot, you can die very quickly. Your experience is one of like, oh, I've died and I know why, but like, the esprit d'escalier of like, there was a decision I could have made if I was a better player and I haven't made it.
Yeah.
And the flip side to that is the moment you've gotten better as a player because you then make a correct decision. And I put my 2-handed sword away and just pulled out a dagger and walked into this sort of like shed area that the guy was occupying. And he couldn't hit me because his poleaxe was too long. And I just moved inside his sort of active range and stayed sort of tricky and just knifed him to death slowly. It was in full plate armor, but just chipping away.
Death in a shed.
It was fucking great. And then later the same day, a guy threw a blacksmith hammer at me from really far away, and it killed me. I think I was going to mention something actually. So speaking of wokeness being the death of these games is claimed. I think the opposite is true. I realized something a while ago. I think when it came out, one of the developers of Mordhau said something kind of dumb about why there aren't female characters in Mordhau. And rightly, no one bought that at the time. I think it wasn't you just can't animate them. How do they move? No one knows thing that people say about women. It's quote, not realistic or something. It was some bollocks excuse, whatever, right? They got it completely wrong. I realized what the correct answer would have been. The correct answer would have been, Mordhau doesn't have female characters because it is a parody of men. Like, they would never own the fact that this is a comedy game and that it is specifically a parody of men. But I had this realization the other day while I was playing it. I was in this pre-match sequence and everyone was a big topless man with a mustache, and they were all doing the pose where you spread your arms out wide, like you're kind of T-posing, and waggling side to side while hammering the V key, which just makes you scream wordlessly. Like, whoa! Or like, for the king! Or something. And then one of them's just going, hello! 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 And then everyone at one, with no kind of real signal, started punching and kicking each other, and then all fell off the same battlement to their sweaty death. And I was like, this is amazing. This is art, but not the art they thought they were making.
Like 300 in a way.
Yeah, but like what that would actually, be like. It's very good. I'm sorry for derailing from Hunt. I've just been thinking about it a lot. Yeah.
And actually, I mean, it's interesting that, because Tarkov as well had the same reasoning, resources reasoning by why they hadn't include female avatars. But Hunt is the counterpoint because I think it launched actually without female avatars, and then they added them later.
Because you can do that.
You can
just do that, yeah.
No. Although, I'm never one to dismiss claims about devs' willingness to commit resources to something that won't necessarily impact sales-wise, because they are businesses as well and they need to survive. But at the same time, these excuses seem quite fatuous to me.
Yeah, all of these, I think what that decision has meant is that a lot of these games have the vibe of like a particularly hardcore stag weekend that no one's having a great time on.
Yeah.
Like Mordhau is we're going to go do a reenactment stag weekend and 3 people are going to take it too seriously and they're going to hurt each other and one other person who wasn't involved. And whereas then you have the classic kind of PUBG paintball weekend gone astray. You also have, I guess, the Hunt Showdown paintball weekend gone really astray. Like someone's like fighting a huge spider in a youth hostel somewhere in Wales. You've got the...
Just wanted to do Laser Quest.
You've got the Tarkov, like we've all got new camping gear, but no one knows how to use it because we've had one trip to Blacks. And no one needs to own this many mag lights.
We got to the camping ground after dark and no one's got a torch.
Lads. Like, yeah, it's not necessarily a good thing, but it is a mood.
Yeah.
That's how I feel on games.
Would you like, what, is it time? What, shall we do some from...
Maybe. Well... Go on.
Question from questions, yes?
I wouldn't say no.
Okay, you've persuaded me, guys. Aidan writes, Dear Creative Foobar, as a rosy-cheeked child, I played and loved Final Fantasy VII. Early in the game, I was given the option to name my hero. The default name was Cloud, a bit odd, but fine. But what if there were several other characters, I thought? Ones with the same name. I need to differentiate my spiky-haired hero somehow. So I settled on changing my name slightly. Instead of Cloud, my Buster Sword-wielding champion would be called Cloud 1. Cloud. And then the numeral 1. He helpfully explains. Why I did this, I'm not sure, but I spent 50 hours with this name and I'm standing by it. Do you have any odd character naming habits or stories? All the best, Aidan.
Oh, I played Persona 4 and I didn't like that I called my character Roto Potato because you have to think up a fucking surname as well. I did not like the name Roto Potato. I think half a second after I pressed OK. And I persevered with it.
It's early enough to start again. You're allowed to start again.
There must have been a reason I didn't. Because maybe there's a big preamble. I think that is a game of long kind of sequences before you can do stuff. I think there's a long preamble. I couldn't face doing it again. Roto Potato it is. So I bloody-mindedly called myself Roto Potato in Persona 5, only to punish myself, it appears.
I don't think I have any really funny answers to this because I take this very seriously and it takes me a long time.
What's your Battlefront name?
It's my EA Origin username, isn't it?
Darth.
Take this seriously, children. It's a deep and rich lore, actually. No, so I think when I was a kid, I used to just, if it has like, what's your name? I'd go, Chris. So like my Final Fantasy VII was as Chris, and basically my Legend of Zeldas were starring Chris, and so that and then I learned, because I think as a child it was very much like I'd like to live inside the video game, and this is the fastest way for me to access that. And then it was a mark of something resembling maturity, which is a stone to throw in this glass house, this sugar glass shatterable expanse that we reside in, to then grow into, I'm going to create a character and roleplay as them, and they won't be me, but they really are. I'm trying to think nowadays, if a lead character has a name already, I probably won't change it now, because it annoys me afterwards when I've done that and it's obvious that the game wishes I was called the thing that they decided the character would be called.
Oh yeah.
I had this with Fire Emblem Three Houses, where your name is Bleh, but that's what they set for you. So
is it?
It's Blyeth, but I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that. Yeah. The default lead character's name is Blyeth, Blith, 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 yeah. So I can never sort of hear it when characters are saying it to me. Does that make sense? I mean, that's because it's not, that name isn't voice acted, so people are like, hey, how are you doing?
I always name my pets in any game Pokey, after Pokey the cat in The Incredible Machine, which is a game that came out many years ago. Right. But weirdly, it turns out when my former housemate and colleague Owen Hill discovered that I called my cat in, I think, Guild Wars 1 Pokey, he's like, that's what I call my girlfriend. Oh, God. That's my nickname for my girlfriend. And so it became really weird. Yeah. I still do it. Now his wife. Pokey, or the Pokester Hill. Well, actually, no.
Jones.
Well, Jones, yeah. He changed his name weirdly. Anyway. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mark writes, hello. Sorry?
No, I was just saying hi to Mark.
Right, okay. Your discussion on the last pod about adapting to gamepad from keyboard reminded me of a freebie attached to a gamer magazine sometime in the 90s. Essentially a little plastic box with a stick on top, which you put over the arrow keys to turn it into a joystick. Something like the attached pick, which I will include in the show notes. It was predictably terrible. Given your time in the gaming press, you've probably received more than your fair share of small gizmos over the years. What are the best and worst of these? Are there any that were surprisingly useful that you continue to use? Thanks for the pods. Mark.
What was the 3D controller? Was it the Falcon? The one that looked like the machine in Dune that you put your hand in to prove that you're the Kwisatz Haderach. Right. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was like I can't remember what it was called now, but it's like, as far as I'm aware, it's stuck around at trade shows. Like, one day we'll find out what this is for. Like,
yeah,
I think
it's like a haptic feedback ball, right?
Yeah, but you were inside the ball. Yeah. The ideal controller for BB-8 and BB-9E. Throw it at your friends. It's the same experience. It was. Yeah, I think the idea was that it was like you could move the cursor in 3D space rather than across a 2D plane.
Yeah, yeah.
It had depth, which I think maybe subsequently had some utility for carving, for 3D printing.
It was pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
For the time. It was a cool piece of technology, but it was ultimately pointless.
Yeah, exactly.
Darwinian dead end.
There was no reason for there to be one in the PC Gamer office. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, it was like the perfect homeworld controller or something. Like,
yeah. I recall, you have to admire the brazen balls of trying to take this product to market, but for the famously peripheralless Kinect, somebody made a peripheral for a rafting game, which was a rubber dinghy. It's just a dinghy. You blew it up. You sat in it. That was it. Didn't have any other kind of connection to the digital world.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be like if you got like a special peripheral for Lawbreakers, which was to enhance the game experience if you thought it wasn't woke enough, and it was just a little hat that said dipshit on it.
Sell 1,000 of them. Yeah.
One for every person who bought the game.
It was always, I remember a lot of the, I want to say downscale magazines. The downscale magazines.
It's alright, you both worked for Edge, you can be snobby.
Were obliged by the publishers, not the staff, who are obviously respectable human beings, but by the publishers to include tat basically in a bag on top of the magazine itself. I remember a lot of those items were slightly suspect. Glow in the dark skins for the Wii one that may have been toxic, that kind of thing.
The kind of, I've just remembered that there is one tat thing that was magazine related that does still get used, which was some PS4 pad kind of sort of things, covers you put over the pads, the sticks.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of got knobbly bits on it, which apparently enhances your grip. We put them on a controller because the rubbery bits on the controller wore off.
Gosh.
And it made it good as new. Well, it's not good as new. It's bad, but it's better than it was.
There were ways to adapt the really spongy triggers of like the PS2 controller to being more like a 360 controller.
These kind of like appendages that you'd fit onto them.
Yeah.
That was like a prime kind of cover mount thing, wasn't it? That kind of shit. Because it's just a piece of plastic.
I actually think I remember this abomination in question that Mark writes about. I think that I have a feeling my PC format or something came with it.
That sounds
way
formatting.
back when. Because I remember I have a distinct. As soon as I saw that picture of it, I was like, oh. I remember using that briefly, realizing I needed to throw it away 2 seconds later.
Yeah, thinking this will change everything when you're a newsagent.
It didn't.
It didn't change anything.
Sam writes, Dear Crate and Crowbar Stewards, you humble folks rarely, if ever, use your platform to talk about your other work. What are you working on, and how should we consume it? Sam.
I don't want to be consumed, but I'm very happy to talk about stuff I do.
You should. You've got some cool things at the moment.
Yeah.
Got a cool book.
What do I do? I write stuff mostly, don't I?
Yeah.
So I had a book, come out, it came out in a sort of, it came out just before Christmas.
You sound really excited about it.
Well,
wasn't,
it's funny, like, it never had a launch date. So it's a book called, Japan Soft, An Oral History. It's published by, a small publisher called Read Only Memory, who make very, very nicely made books, about game history, mostly beautifully designed, kind of beautifully printed, lovely paper. They are properly, wonderfully made things. And I have written 2 of them. First one being Britsoft and Oral History, which is based on a set of interviews with that were conducted for a film documentary. And then I kind of got all of that text, sort of all of the transcripts from it, made some new interviews, and then chopped it together into an oral history book. And Japansoft is much the same, a set of interviews made by a journalist called John, and I don't know how to pronounce his surname, begins with S, because I only ever write it. But he did a series, he kickstarted a series of books based on these interviews, but he never had the resources to finish them all off. And so he sold the transcripts to Read Only, and they asked me to chop it together, properly edit it into a single book. And that came out just before Christmas. But like I said, there was no proper launch date for it because it came out when the printer finally finished work on it.
Right.
And that's available through the Read Only website. And
cool.
I'm really proud of it. It was really hard project because it was, so Britsoft was with a bunch of big game designers from the 80s. David Braben, the people that I've forgotten all the names of because my brain's old, but sort of American, European, British people talk about their work in a different way to Japanese people. I think, that they speak much more freely and openly, and the interviews in the Japanese book are much more choppy, much less likely to go off on kind of nice monologues that I can work with and sort of beautifully fashion and kind of, have fun with. I had to chop and change a lot of stuff to make coherent sort of pieces that felt like they were, said in one block, because it's not fun to read them when they're as choppy as they actually were spoken. So this, it was a project about taking liberties, but making them feel authentic and be completely respectful to what they were saying as well. And of course, that's from not ever seeing the original text because, I don't speak Japanese. And so, hoping as well, that it's all kosher. And also reading stuff into it where things like, I don't quite believe what this person's saying, and then finding a counterpoint and sort of putting that next to it. So, so I'm really proud of it because I think I just about balanced it. The reviews are trickling out now, and there's a nice one in Nintendo Life. And
oh, cool.
That's cool. So, there's that. So I'm now thinking about a couple of more books for this year. There might be a US soft. So do the American one. That might happen this year. And then like there's going to be a book about computer design, like physical design of computers. It's going to be for Thames and Hudson. It's coming out this year. And that is
hang on, what do you mean? Like the industrial shape?
Industrial design of computers, right. But like it's a history like beautiful photographs of, a
lot of beige things.
Loads of beige. And like we wanted specifically to show the blemishes of age on these machines. So they look really nice, really lovely photography. And then like my pieces are like a 300 or 400 word piece about that computer. And then it's history. And like I'd never heard of most of the computers when I was, before I wrote it, and like drawing together these kind of stories through all of the companies as they kind of waxed and waned. Like the 80s was a crazy time for companies coming and going, like in the matter of a year or two, sort of names that you still, that are relatively familiar today, that had very short histories, and that's in games as well as computers, like the Britsoft and Japansoft, like really speak to a really dynamic, terrible, like incredibly, tumultuous time, for wherever you are, like in Britain or Japan. So I really enjoy doing that stuff because I often don't know this as much, I often go in quite blind, really, knowing enough to know what the subject is, but then I find it fascinating, actually, kind of you find, like personal dramas and things. Like in there was a Hong Kong based company that made more or less knockoffs of one of the American computers, the Coco, it was like a really early 8-bit color computer, and they made sort of knockoffs because it used sort of off the shelf components. And, this person had been born in China and basically just managed to get over the border into Tokyo, made up this company.
Hong Kong or Tokyo?
In Hong Kong, sort of managed to go over the border and then made up this company, had European subsidiary eventually, and but then dabbled in the Hong Kong property market. And little did all of his employees know that he basically bankrupted the company. And just after they'd launched the computer, they discovered that the company was no more. And there's this sort of legend that goes along that he was last seen leaving a hotel with a great big sack full of notes that he had managed to kind of put together and running off into the night. And it's like sort of dramatic stories like that. Anyway, that I will say more about that when the release date comes, which I think is in springtime, I think.
Cool.
And then I also work for Mojang.
Yeah.
Doing Marty's old job, basically.
Bits of it, yeah.
Bits of it, yeah. But I'm a publishing editor there, which means that I work with all of their publishing people. So they work with partners like Egmont, a children's book publisher, and Random House and Penguin and things. And they want to make books about Minecraft, and I make sure that they are good and they have good stories, or they are correct and they are good quality and worth buying.
You're looking at me.
I am looking at you.
I'm fully out of media now. I help make video games for a living. So, my career's changed dramatically. I don't talk about it purposefully, but I am just sort of fully into production and design and writing, and comms now. In terms of ways people can get at that stuff, the game that I've worked on that is out is Hack Mode, which is, still going strong. That's on Steam. It is a text-based hacking simulator MMO. Very, steep learning curve. It was a steep learning curve for me. And I, wrote a ton of it. But lovely community. do join the Discord if you do decide to play it. Other than that, like, you know, this podcast and its spin-offs is my kind of media output now. So, yeah. How about you, Marto?
I don't produce anything in a consumable form. I can't say what I'm working on at the moment. But I was working at Mojang, doing lots of word-based things, and worked on Minecraft and Minecraft Dungeons as well, which is now announced, which is nice. I don't know if what I did on Minecraft Dungeons has really survived, but we'll see. I also worked on Minecraft Story Mode as well. Yeah, and other things at Mojang that have yet to be announced, which are cool.
Cool.
Benjamin writes, "Hi consoles and quadrilateral cowboys. An update on the demise of Netrunner. It's been about 16 months since the last FFG product was sold and a little less than 2 years since they announced the end of the game. The community always suspected that it was due to conflict with Wizards of the Coast and FFG over the pieces that were licensed and possibly a souring relationship between the two companies overall. But a fan organisation called Nisai has been developing new sets and running tournaments quite successfully. In a sense, it's like Black Mesa, but for Netrunner. So, relatedly, what's your favourite fan project or mod turned full game experience?" Benjamin.
Well, that's a good kind of correct. I'm glad to hear that Netrunner's doing well, because as I said, it's among the best of its kind. And I had heard that same theory as well, that the context there is that Netrunner is based on the Android license, which is a Wizards of the Coast thing. And there was a period of time where basically Wizards of the Coast, Fantasy Flight and Games Workshop were all kind of mutually not struggling, but certainly bimbling rather than, you know, running. And so they were kind of happy.
How fast is a bimble? Is it slower than a jog, but faster than a walk? Or is it worse than a walk?
You can have a happy bimble, which is quite quick, but a slow bimble, a sad bimble,
right,
that's pretty slow. And I think this was a sort of, I feel nothing emoji type kind of bimble. Anyway, that's my industrial analysis of the tabletop games industry. But there was a period of time when they were happy to share IP with each other. So, for example, the Warhammer 40,000 Conquest game that FFG produced, FFG had a bunch of Wizards of the Coast licenses and things, and it was kind of all moving around. I think because mutual kind of product development and exposure could only help. And then as soon as all three of those companies suddenly kind of profited massively from the tabletop boom, there was a snatching back of licenses. But it also, I think, still underlines the fact that if, like, the best game in that space doesn't get ongoing support, then that's weird. In terms of fan projects done good, I mean, in the break you handed this to me, that this Dota is this.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my answer. I'm reaching for something kind of, I guess, different to that, but honestly, I can't think of much.
I don't know if I'm really playing anything like that.
Counter-Strike, I remember that when it was a mod, and at the time I was a really shit skinner, as they were called. Somebody who, at that time, skinning meant making textures for models rather than applying animations to them or setting them up for animations. And I was in the modding scene looking to do something for a game. I saw Counter-Strike. I was like, no, that'll never make it. And I put my efforts behind. I can't remember what it was now. I think it was a game.
Frontline Force. I'm going to make guesses.
Well, it was
Ricochet.
It was a counter-terrorism based mod for, I think, Unreal at the time that I was into. And that one did not become a global success. So yeah. Probably because of my terrible skins. Doomed at failure.
I had a period of time as a amateur skinner as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to make skins for AVP.
Oh.
Yeah. And one of them was really, really successful. And that's like,
was it a really horny one?
No. Yeah. My horny AVP mods. The best email I ever got as a teenager, pretty much, 'cause I was like 15. This was back in the day, the like early noughties, where you may still have a whole family email address.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we've got one AOL connection, so the whole family shares it type thing. And I remember this really vividly. I got an email about, because they all enjoy, like, my skins had names like Jungle Pharaoh, Predator. And like, you know, I don't know, like Blood Runner. Like it was the runner alien, but it was made of blood now. I made it red, essentially. I got this email that was from the whole Thompson clan, and it was like a whole family emailed me to say how much as a family, and it was like, it was like an American family, like mum, dad, the kids, emailed me from somewhere in middle America to tell me how much they enjoyed Jungle Pharaoh Predator.
Oh.
And I remember that really vividly, because it was like the only like you never get a comment, right? Like you look, you know. Yeah, that's weird. Maybe that's an interesting spin-off. Like, yeah. I've had 3 really successful mods in my life, inexplicably.
Oh, yeah. So Jungle Pharaoh
Predator. You probably wouldn't find it now because it was hosted on like GeoCities or something, or like Angel Fire.
GeoCities all been, well, not.
When I was 13, I think it was the second, or it was close. It was definitely in the top. It was definitely among the first 5 publicly available alternative black and white multiplayer maps. I made a map called Gold Rush, which was just a big hill that had loads of gold in the middle of it. Predating the Battle Royale genre by 20 odd years.
Yeah.
And that was like top of File Planet for black and white for ages because there was nothing else. It's good. Yeah. That's, I don't know how I got onto that, but that's my modding story.
That's good. I wish I had a modding story. I ain't got nothing.
Well. Can I have some more Drunky Man fall down juice?
That's where I get calling it that from. Must be you.
No, I thought I called it that because it was your phrase for it.
Oh, I still don't know where I get that from.
What did you call it? Drunky Man
fall down juice.
Drunky Man's fall down juice. Or Captain Morgan. That's a lot. I've given you a lot.
Excellent. Well, this outro is going to go well.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Splashy. Yeah, good. Thank you very much for that.
Splish splosh.
Maybe I got that from you, and then later in my life, I'll go back in time and whisper it to you
as a baby.
And create paradox.
So it's an idea that comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
I assume, because I can't remember when I first said it. This must be one of those things that was sort of generated when we lived together, I suspect.
Probably.
Yeah.
These things just, they just grow like a mold, basically.
Yeah. Like when we lived together.
Oh, yeah. David writes, "Hi all, I was thinking about the oft-mentioned Big Town and its problems while listening to the latest pod. I was wondering if the issue could be alleviated somewhat through abstraction. After all, things are abstracted already, with the average big town being approximately equal to 1 bath by your reckoning." This question won't make any sense to anybody who's tuned into this podcast for the first time. Bath? Big town? I'm not going to make no attempt to explain it. Rather than being filled with screens full of NPCs to talk to and doors that mostly remain shut, what if Big Town were explored through a series of vignettes or set spaces that you could quickly travel between? They could be fixed, drawn randomly from a pool, or even be based on aspects of your character and things you've done so far. How would you solve Big Town? Take care, David.
The system that is described there is kind of similar to 80 Days in the way that you encounter a node in that, where you kind of, the things you come in with and the circumstances in which you encounter it. Even though a lot of things are possible, your kind of exit is going to happen. So you kind of accept that you're going to do finite number of things. Like, I will attempt to, if we're going to try and solve it, you need to kind of unpack what it is. And the Big Town problem is the anxiety that comes with having suddenly a lot of content to do in a lot of different directions and not knowing what's important. Also, well, you don't know, it's really easy to tell a player what's important because you make it a different color in the quest journal.
But that creates a different kind of anxiety where you're torn between something that's actually pressing and all of the other content which you could do without time sensitivity, but maybe you shouldn't because there's a more important thing, but is it going to be accessible later?
Lots of information as well, like this is the history of Big Town and this is what you need to know about what happened here in two centuries ago. And
maybe I should become a vampire now? I don't know.
Yeah, every kind of player is able to be, there's something in Big Town, there's something to paralyze everyone. And, you might be the sort of progress-minded or kind of power-minded player that doesn't know which quests are going to provide the most efficient progress because you're enjoying leveling up and that's what you want to do. It can be the lore-minded player who feels paralyzed by, this is where I find myself, the problem of, wanting to know all of the exposition, but also kind of wanting to be told the story and therefore receive it in a naturalistic way, because it is not fun to be told to read the wiki entry for a town before you can then continue to have adventures there. And then, it's all of, I think, things like 80 Days, or I would say, any game derived from Fallen London, Sun, the Sea and Skies, solve this somewhat through a series of systems, but mostly by making your passage through a given area feel, sort of transient and passing in some way, by taking away the notion that you can complete something. Like one of the interesting things about Fallen London is, or Sun, the Sea, or Sun, the Skies now, is you go to a new place and half of the options are red because you don't have, or blocked off to you because you don't have the staff. And there's a light, big townishness to that, because it shows you that there's so many different pathways. It gives you a glimpse of the size of the thing. And I think it's important. It is important to show players that there is some depth here. But it's something that I've observed in working in games that, players will always assume that the possibility space is bigger than it actually is. And I'm actually rambling off topic there a little bit, but the point is that you have to tease the size of things to have the sense of scale and the sense of depth. The good thing about those games is they structure your resource acquisition and the things that gates that content in a way that, means that that you're only ever going to have a certain amount to invest, and therefore you're going to have to make a choice, and that choice is probably going to be somewhat final. And that, I think, helps get rid of the anxiety of feeling like you must do everything. Does that make sense? Particularly in those games where death is semi-permanent and you kind of get reset and things. You are doing, like in 80 Days, you're doing a run, not trying to rinse the world of all its content. And I think that's a good, that's an interesting solution, because if you incorporate it in a tight way into your game design, then you can approach a solution to the big town paralysis. But it's useful because it's functionally just about instilling a particular mindset, and that mindset is how you get over it as a player. Because you can apply that mindset to Divinity or Baldur's Gate or any game that has this issue by just saying, like, I'm just going to do what I feel like doing, and I'm going to assign priority based on what I think is important, and I'm going to get the experience I get from doing that.
But I think it is still a design, it does still need to work.
It shouldn't punish you for doing that. Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that Baldur's Gate, I think, probably would, because you wouldn't have bought the right gear in the shop, because
right.
Blah, blah,
it's
blah,
it's an interesting issue, and something I'm thinking a lot at the moment from a design point of view, because I think you want to encourage players to explore the breadth of the content that has been created for them, or else you're getting a less return on the investment that went into creating that content in the first place. This is talking specifically about problems in an open world game where players have a lot of freedom. But you don't want to make the moments where players are encouraged. Well, so there's two things. There's the moment when they realize what the breadth is, and there is the moment where they have to engage with it. And that's why it's Big Town. Big Town is the moment when you realize how big everything is, and you realize that you probably have to do something about it. And one of the issues of that presentation, we're kind of riffing on the classic RPG thing, if you finish the tutorial and then you arrive at the big city kind of moment, is it bombards you with both of those things at the same time. You realize, oh shit, this game is actually huge, and I might be enjoying the story and liking the characters that I've met so far, but actually there's tons to this. And it encounters at the same time as all of this stuff is sort of presented to me, and it's weighted very similarly to the content that I've already received.
I think, I think to contextualize that, I'd say that it's kind of primarily an issue with pacing. So often, like in those RPGs, like you start off and most of the actual kind of the nitty gritty of the play is quite linear. Like you're going through a dungeon or you're going along a specific course, and then suddenly you get to this like open-ended place, and you've just been in this mindset of, okay, to progress, I just go from left to right, and then suddenly, it's all around me. Because I think that you can play something like Disco Elysium, which is set in a town or the city already, and you can go anywhere you like, and it doesn't feel big towny, because you're from the very from the moment you wake up, you know that, well, you can just go over there and you can talk to people and you can feel your way organically through it, and you could probably do that in Baldur's Gate in that first town, but actually, it's the pace change that's probably the root of the problem.
Yes.
with that situation.
I think the other thing is it's actually fine to maybe one way to think about it is a pacing thing, but pacing is an interesting concept when you're talking about a game where the player directs the pace with which they proceed, because you don't have the pace control that you would have in a linear game. And I think the mistake that traditionally like CRPGs make is it's actually interesting. It's like WoW is responsible for this, I think, weirdly. World of Warcraft has something to answer for when it comes to the big town problem, because Warcraft's big innovation, one of them, many of them, was quest markers, exclamation markers, which was a way of indicating there's content here. There's content here, come and get it. And it worked in WoW because WoW's kind of genius was to take quest lines, which in EverQuest could be, you know, endlessly branching, kind of very opaque multi-stage things that you excavated from dialogue trees where you were typing in the keywords manually to see what the NPCs would respond to. Fundamentally stuff that came from mud logic, where stuff is hidden, as in multi-user dungeon logic, where stuff is hidden and it's kind of organic and weird, and a quest line is half Easter egg, half content. And WoW said that and said, no, this needs to be like a tweet length quest description, a shopping list, and then a reward that you're shown at the beginning. And you're gonna want these because we're gonna take this and we're gonna turn it into 10 minutes and a reward, and you're gonna feel good about that. And you're gonna feel so good about it, you're gonna want to do 20 of them at once. And you're gonna want to be able to grab them as quickly as possible, and then you're gonna want to look at your journal and figure out how to crack them all at the same time. And the kind of organic, weird, kind of wonky role play, talk to the people you want to talk to approach becomes a game of project management and, task, sort of curation, where you want to be able to see all the quest markers at the same time. You don't get the big town problem in WoW because the quest markers tell you.
Quest marker.
They tell you this one's too low level for you. It's silver or whatever the coloring is. This one is too high level for you. It's not appeared yet. Everything, if it's gold, click on it. And it's not going to be an overwhelming task because you have been trained that this is the cadence of it. It's not going to require you to do much reading. It's just going to spit you out into the world, and you're going to come back in half an hour and feel good. And that logic got inherited into a lot of the CRPGs that followed because it feels good to have a clear task list and so on. The problem with it is I don't think it copes well with the weight of storytelling and complexity and a variable length of time that single player RPGs tend to have associated with any given quest. And so the answer, I think, and this is interesting because this is kind of how Disco Elysium solves it, I think, is to say, you're here to do one thing. And if you happen to go to this shop and talk to someone and end up fucking around in there and doing what is functionally a quest, and you get some quote unquote reward for doing that, we'll never tell you that what you just did was a quest. Yeah. We're literally just never going to tell you that was what you just did. And you will never see this itemized. Imagine if you load into that first area in Disco Elysium on day one, and if you added quest markers or like the potential, like imagine adding there's a potential reward here markers to NPCs in Disco Elysium. It becomes nightmare. Like it literally becomes the worst.
Yeah, you'll get paralyzed.
Right, yeah, you suddenly have the big town problem. So maybe that's the solution. Just like teach players the logic of sometimes if you talk to people, they will have a task for you to do, and then tell them to do exactly one thing with maybe one optional thing.
Yeah. Get out of big town. Okay, I'll talk to the people in big town.
It's also like expanding contract thing that Disco Elysium does, and like actually Red Dead Redemption 2 does, and most of Rockstar games to some extent, where there are a set number of missions that you can complete. In Disco Elysium, for example, it's day-based, so there's only certain missions that are available to you on a single day, and then they can easily push off content to another day, so that you don't get overwhelmed in one go. And Rockstar deal with that in Red Dead Redemption by having, say there's, 5 different mission markers you can do, and they all separately are different missions, but they do feed back into a single funnel point that then unlocks the next stage of the narrative.
Bubble of stuff.
And then it bubbles up again and opens a new set of options. And I think you're exactly right in saying that Big Town is a problem with the way that games have been structured rather than a problem with like just the open world being overwhelmed in general. Like it is down to almost the taxonomy of how you characterize quests.
Right. And if you look at some of the ways that games approach solving this, like both Guild Wars, later Guild Wars 2 and the Assassin's Creed series are examples of games that turn what would be quests in WoW into ambient things.
Yeah.
Right. An Odyssey or something. You arrive on this island. You're told the moment you arrive, there are 5 chests here. There are 16 special guards. There are this many towers. And so that takes away the paralysis of, oh, I've got to go make sure I've got all the quests, or I've got to go make sure I picked everything up. They take that away from you, or they, in different Assassin's Creed games, they attach it to different mechanics. But normally it's, once you've synchronized, that's essentially all synchronizing is, download what would be all of the quests in this area to my eagle. You know? And that helps it feel manageable. It feels very big. You know, that game certainly has a shopping list issue. But it doesn't, you walk away with the comfort that you haven't missed anything. I think it's only a partial solution to this like malaise of freely directed games. Like I think.
It's just not very story based, like, cause you're just doing stuff in a space rather than.
Well, it's why like, it's the endless lament that like a lot of human beings struggle to be Tom Francis. Like, I mean, that's, like, cause Tom naturally approached like, if you read Tom Skyrim Diaries and things, really good at approaching these games from a singular perspective and following that through. But games teach you to be acquisitive and teach you that you've failed if you haven't done anything. Achievements are also to blame here. There's so many different things you can point to that say that you instilled this mindset that content is there to be consumed. Yeah. That these aren't experiences that you have. They are toy boxes that you empty. So this is why in conclusion, I'm right about the Star Wars toy box thing.
Of course.
And it's funny, like, but I think a lot of people, if they approach the idea of a role-playing game fresh without the baggage that it's acquired in its digital kind of life, then you can still get people to roleplay and you can still get people to make decisions and cut off content from themselves. And Disco Elysium is the perfect example of that, actually. Like, they actually managed to do that, right? People saw value in being their particular detective and sharing that and exploring that rather than feeling that they had to do or be everything.
Yeah, there's also there's a way of describing that content which is different in Disco Elysium than it is in other CRPGs, where other CRPGs, it's so distinct that you are embarking on a side quest. Like a side quest, it has a very different feel to it. It could be like, oh, it's a comedy side quest. Oh, I've got to help the goblin find his socks. Or something awful.
The romance side quest.
The romance side quest.
At the end of this one, we're going to fade to black.
Bardouche, you might say. Which won't make sense to me.
You might say that. You might say that if BioWare's writers' room were having a weird Friday and wanted to go home.
But in Disco Elysium, there's always a knowledge that any side quest you're doing is a digression from what you should be doing, because the characters themselves say, why are we fucking around here?
Yeah.
Don't we have a murder to solve? And it always feels like there is still a unity of effect. Like everything is pulling towards a single thread in Disco Elysium, even at its most digressionary, I think. Whereas that's not the feeling you get from any BioWare game or any Elder Scrolls game, for example, where separate quests feel so separate. They feel like they're pulling in completely different directions. They are almost a different game in terms of the kind of content.
Right. It's maybe, I'm going to fight for Disco Elysium, until the cows come home, but Disco Elysium is an intimate game. Like it's about a character which you play, which is pre-written,
right,
and whatever. Whereas Skyrim, they're at pains for you to occupy your shell with whatever the fuck you want, and also
absolutely.
to fill a root of a much bigger world.
I guess what I'm saying is it's not exactly the fault of Skyrim that it's like that. It's a choice about the kinds of stories that you tell in those environments that make the anxiety more acute.
Right.
Or not.
But so I think you're onto something though, because I think one of the issues is that players have too much power. And too much preeminence in the world. I think Disco Elysium says, you're not anyone, you are this person and you have a job. And if you're not doing that job, other people are going to go, why aren't you doing your job? Yeah. And we're going to give you some good reasons to not do your job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're not off the leash. And one of the interesting things about Skyrim is, technically, vanilla Skyrim, or most of these RPGs, it's not just that you are the chosen one or that you're the hero that you created and you can be any number of different classes or, races or whatever. That's not what's important. The important thing is that fucking time moves when you tell it to. Right?
Yeah.
The world state is, obviously you can, burn through time and Disco Elysium and stuff as well, but the point is you are given too many controls over the kingdom.
Yeah, it's a playground.
It's a playground. But if you counterpoint that with if you go and look at the top 10 Skyrim mods, don't have willies. And look at how many of them are either survival related or something to do with adding a external force that affects the cadence of the player's actions.
People want some kind of singularity.
Right. And to go back to 80 days, timers are really good. Day-night, Persona is a good example of you have that, what is traditionally associated with life sim RPGs or even dating games where you've got to choose how you're going to use the hours in a particular day, right?
Right.
And then suddenly managing your time goes from being something that you, the player, is doing to being something the character is doing. And as soon as you've achieved that translation, you're in a much healthier place because then the player is thinking, well, I don't have that much time today. I've got to do, if Skyrim had...
This is in fact actually exactly what I was thinking about when we first started talking about this question. It was that, you get to Whiterun in Skyrim. So you arrive in Big Town and you have one thing that you need to do beyond all others. And that is suddenly super important to you. And then it can sort of begin to kind of seed the other missions in over the course of that. Then that makes, then at least you're not dropped in with just 100 different things you can do, right?
But I think that there's a massive tension in that because I can see Tom Francis, hating that. How fucking dare you, give me, suggest all this freedom. I want freedom and now I go into the big town. Big town fucks me,
I guess one of the, cause I'm arguing for the environment where you arrive in Whiterun, but the Jarl won't see you straight away because you're nobody. Right?
Yeah. Right.
So if we're in the kind of life sim side of things, and this is explained to you. And the nice thing about this is it's you're going to have to live here a while, maybe do some jobs or, choose how you're going to progress, but you're going to have to.
It does do that in a couple of the places, I think. It does ease you in a bit.
But you're still the one saying, I would like it to be 6 p.m. now. I will I'm just gonna stand in the middle of the road and be asleep. Everyone else will figure it out.
Certainly a timer is too crude and it would annoy the Tom Francis of the world, which by no means we should. That is a fate to be feared.
He'll come back.
But there's got to be certain ways in which you could just trim down the amount of content for a period of time and then allow it to be kind of seeded back in. I don't know. The more I play these sort of open world games, I've loved a lot of the Elder Scrolls games, and I had a great time in, what was the one preceding Skyrim? Jesus Christ. Oblivion, yeah. But that was a game about freezing cows and pushing them down mountains, or trying to jump out of the skybox, or trying to see how many goblins you could be chased by. Yeah. In a weird way, it was a game about sort of griefing the game itself rather than a game. And I kind of feel
populated with the most bullyable NPCs.
Yeah, it's because I think ultimately, narratively, there wasn't really that much that engaged me.
Yeah.
And I think what I crave from experiences now are richer narratives that do engage me rather than the ability to break games, which is no longer novel to me. I can just watch, games done quick for that. Or I could make my own really broken games. But just the idea that I want to be told a better story, I suppose, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And I think having things pulled together towards a single point is actually more effective to me now than it is to have the freedom to do lots and lots of different wacky shit. I actually don't want that wacky shit. I want somebody to communicate something of value to me, and for that experience to be more designed.
Yeah, it's like, ultimately you don't arrive in like Mos Eisley, steal a speeder and just start running over stormtroopers for 50 minutes. Right? You arrive in Mos Eisley to meet Han Solo and get a ship to get off. You know what I mean? Like there's like a strong narrative through line is kind of the core of actually being able to tell a story, but it can't be forced. You just have to give the player sufficient reason to invest in that, being the thing they're going to go and do.
Yeah. You've forgotten who you are, and there's a crime outside that you're meant to be investigating.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you going to do about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're alone in the bushes and a horse is screaming. What are you going to do?
Probably stay in the bushes.
Jim for help.
Wait in the bushes until Jim helps me.
Wait for Daddy Hunter.
Help me, Hunt Daddy! Save me! Appreciate me, Hunt Daddy. I have value.
That's the big swamp problem.
Yeah. I say as he revives me for the 4th time, having been eaten by dogs. Good old Jim. Very patient man. TJ writes, hello! Do you have any weird sense memories about computer games? For me, the sensation of cool wind after a rain spell intensely reminds me of Tribes 2, possibly because of the rain dance map. I'm not sure. There's also a specific type of plastic smell that reminds me of Dark Rain 2, because my dad brought a bootleg copy of it home from an overseas trip around the year 2000. The disc was in a flimsy DVD case. The game was rubbish. Cheers, TJ Howes.
I was going to bring this up actually because when we were talking about the mods, because but it wasn't really about modding. But back in the 90s, I fiddled around with mods and WODs for Doom, and I just bought a copy of Pulp's His and Hers.
Oh yeah,
and that album, like that, if I listen to that album now, I am brought straight back to the room in which my mum's computer was, and me fiddling around with Doom WODs and them never running and weird sector problems, and I loved it. That was probably only like 2 weekends probably, and that is indelibly linked.
Yeah,
wow.
I can just brought back, like my mind just clicks.
One of mine's an album. I was very, very, very ill the week that Dark Age of Camelot expansion, Mists of Avalon, I think, was it called? I think it was the first expansion to that game. God, is that what it was called? Anyway, it was the expansion that added Avalon, to Albion. And I was super ill, like I had the flu or something, but it was one of those like really kind of delirious, woozy flus. So I was off school, so I was able to play my favorite game, Dark Age of Camelot, and so and its version of Avalon, I loved that game, because it had this really peculiar sense of like MMO-ified British countryside, which is still a very strange thing to me. But its version of Avalon was basically Cornwall. Like it was sort of like, sort of sun-baked kind of brushland almost on the edge of the coast, like with weird like sea monsters kind of squawking at you and things like that. And I found a particular valley, off the main path with a few good spawns that I could farm, because there's pre-WoW era MMO play where you just find a place and you sit there for a week. And you fight the same mobs again and again and again and make runs back to town. And I did this while delirious with flu for about a week, I think, while listening to Wishbone Ashes, The King Will Come, because I listened to a lot of noodly and prog adjacent sort of atmospheric rock about King Arthur at the time.
See, weirdly, I was also undergoing my own Arthurian epiphany at this time. But that's the reason I didn't play Dark Ages of Camelot, because I didn't like the fact I had a Minotaur on it.
That's a reasonable objection.
Which is the most Chris thing I think I've ever done.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, now who's a snob? And so for some reason, like, occasionally, if I hear that album, I feel both ill and I can see that valley. And I can see it like it's a place I have been. Like, cause I sat on the side of it regenerating my health and stamina bar for the better part of a real weird week in 2004.
Hallucinatory.
Oh God. Yeah, sorry, actually, do you have more music?
No.
Smell of Teasels, for me brings back, Super Mario Bros. 2. And in general, NES games of that era, but particularly Super Mario Bros. 2, have a very strong sense connection between the smell of that room in my house, which was, I assume, predominantly governed by Teasels, which were in that room, and, the atmosphere of a shaded room inside Super Mario Bros. 2. When you go inside rooms, it sort of flips to the other side of the scene, and there's a door which casts a shaft of light, which is your entrance and exit into that space. And even though that's really basically described in terms of the pixels, it's still one of the most atmospheric looking things, I think, in games. And yeah, that smell, man.
In my...
reminds me strongly.
I have a smell and taste one as well, which is, I used to get home from work when I first moved to Bath and cook, and I got into the habit of cooking, making a sort of creamy pasta sauce with loads of black pepper in it, like black peppercorns, spinach and pasta and pancetta. And that's what I would eat, basically. And that's what Dota 2 tastes like. Genuinely, like, I would make peppery kind of cream sauce with pancetta, which is quite nice.
Healthy. Just like Dota 2.
Yeah, exactly. And then I would play like 5 games of Dota 2 in my little room, and then I would go to sleep, and then I'd wake up and go to work and do it again. And that was, and so that's what that game tastes like, even if over the years it has changed. Actually, so that's what playing Dota 2 tastes like. Watching Dota 2 tastes like the very specific breaded fried chicken fillets they sell in the Key Arena Stadium in Seattle, because that is the only food they sell at the International, like within the premises, and you can't bring food in. So you just eat chips and these very specific, sort of, very kind of American hyper processed, like chicken type matter. Like, you know, that's what watching Dota tastes like.
Beautiful. That's fitting, really. I think so. Yeah. I remember being ill, every time we were ill, as children, the kind of entertainments for us weren't necessarily video games, but there was always the Bakshi Lord of the Rings, on video cassette, which I have unsuccessfully defended in our Discord channel as the best adaptation
that is
of Lord of the Rings.
That's a take.
Which was, I agree, a bold move, but it's still an insane one that I stand by. And also the original BBC video, BBC adaptation. No, not the radio adaptation. Sorry, the TV adaptation of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Oh, right.
Which I still very fondly of. And the theme tune, which is by the Eagles, I think it's called Journey of the Magician, which is quite fitting for this podcast. Maybe it's Journey of the Wizard. I can't remember. Anyway, still makes me feel slightly queasy when I listen to it, but also delighted.
Yeah. We're definitely the children of an era of media where it was becoming less acceptable to just fucking put a wizard in it.
Yeah. What was that? There was a TV show which was literally Dungeons and Dragons, right? What was it called?
Nightmare. Dragons.
No, not Nightmare. Was it called Dungeons and Dragons?
The one with the cartoon with the kids in it.
Yeah.
And then it's basically what the comic that Kieran Gillen has written.
Die.
It's the people who are playing Dungeons and Dragons, they get sucked into the game, basically.
Yeah.
Jumanji, as it's also known.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not to take away from
But it's also
Kieran
like the
Gillen's
era of like, you know, I don't know, the British rock had finished absorbing all of the last bits of energy of blues and anything they could nick from black American musicians, basically. And then they were like, what do we write about now? Lord of the Rings, I guess.
Yeah.
Stonehenge.
But then that quickly kind of curdled into irony.
There's a like a winking period where it wasn't ironic. That is where my entire aesthetic resides. Like, where it's like, you go logically from, you know, we've repurposed a Howlin' Wolf song to this is about a niche part of the Silmarillion, and like somewhere in that vanishing space of like, I don't know, fucking Jimmy Page's mind is like teen me, like discovering what I like.
Steph writes, Dear Gribbles and Goblins, a game has died.
Shit.
Said game was A Year of Rain, an RTS by otherwise quite successful studio Daedalic. The team went silent a month after their early access launch and has just confirmed that they are now moving on to other projects due to a lack of sales. I believe I only saw them mentioned once on any given news site, and never at all on any journalist social media that I follow. Not even the normally strategy-leaning types. It seems few people heard of it, compounding the already off-putting nature of early access. Perhaps it deserved death, perhaps it did not. But this one game is not alone in dying of obscurity. Far from it. Games media clearly do not have a responsibility to spotlight any given game, but they do have that power, which they seem to wield preferentially in favour of the games people already talk about. And yet, games media is not a chortling council of robed masterminds, but is also beholden to a more terrible power, the humble click, the page view, the fungible metric.
Fungible, did you say?
I did say fungible. Badouche.
Fungible badouche.
This just proves to me you're going to edit that bit from earlier in somewhere, Marty, or you wouldn't be talking about.
I don't know what you mean.
He's like the puppet master.
I don't know what my true question is, but I am deeply uncomfortable with a media ecosystem that rewards already successful games and punishes the risky in the new, and would like to hear you clever folks chat about it. If there must be a question mark, what would it take to reduce the attention inequality between the haves and the have-nots? Cheers and happy drinking, Steph.
This is one of those questions where I kind of wish we had Graham or Tom Senior or both, because those are men whom work directly with this kind of ecosystem every day, and I suspect would reject some of the basic principles of this question. So in a spirit of kind of getting there, not in a mean-spirited way, but like both PC Gamer and RPS, but I know particularly RPS do run and have run games about raising the visibility of interesting niche or kind of games that might otherwise be
right. Yes, Sin Vega has a column on there, which is specific.
Cat Rooster has one as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's these things definitely do exist, and they tend to be and this is kind of the brutal part of this. They tend to be weighted towards things that are more niche than early access RTS games.
By a reasonably big publisher.
Reasonably big publisher. Yeah. So the thing here is not that niche games don't get attention. It's that games in the middle don't get attention. Right? And I completely understand, and I understand now better than I did maybe before that emotionally as a indie dev, it can be crushing to be overlooked. But I would contend that the most dangerous place to put yourself is in the middle. It's in an established genre that maybe higher budget studios are doing more things with, while also being aesthetically or in whatever way less immediately obviously original than the smallest, nichest indie games.
And yet being very expensive to make still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are probably specific reasons that this game didn't make it out of early access that are different from the general trend that Steph is observing, which I think is probably, generally speaking, right in that media in general tends to focus on the things that are already popular because there is money in that. And I think that's a problem which just resides in the whole economic system of the way that we monetize the internet. And I don't think there's any easy way of
there's more to it than that.
Because, for sure, yeah.
Because there's also everywhere has limited resources. Whether you're a big operation or a little, why would you write an article which will satisfy a very small proportion of your readership when you could write something which is going to satisfy a large proportion of your readership?
Yeah, I'm not saying that there's a moral
but it's not. Obviously there's an economic question here, but and the clicks is usually invoked when this topic is discussed. But it's not clicks is also people's interest,
Mm-hmm.
I don't read a lot of stuff when it's not interesting to me. I'm not going to look at it. Sorry.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that's the same for everybody,
Yeah, I think it's when I talk about the clicks, I'm thinking about in a very general sense where aggregation, SEO has changed the shape of the internet in a very broad way from being something where everything is very diffuse but incredibly curated to a small number of sites which are heavily focused on search traffic, basically. And if you think about the number of sites that you actually visit now versus when the internet sort of started reaching a mass market in 1994 or whatever. I mean, I was surfing the web, man, back in 1994. I was going to places and it was individuals talking to me, telling me about their tastes and habits. And
now I'm going to tell you something.
And then there were blogs, and now I visit 4 sites and I hate every one of them.
So I'm going to tell you something.
Tell me. I
still use RSS. And it's fucking the better internet, the best internet.
You pervert.
Because I actually read like a variety of people and I don't have to wade through all the crap at all. And it just gets sent to me. And like I will evangelize RSS and RSS readers forever.
It's one of those. He's one of those.
Old. No, you're right. That's the thing, because it is awful, the internet. I mean, like, yeah, because discovery mechanisms aren't good. Like, you know, by whatever kind of system, even if it's social media traction or something else, it's a little bit fake. It all boils down to what people are interested in and maybe what has some cachet.
Yeah.
In some broader sense.
Also, I think that, like, maybe people just aren't interested in finding games that they haven't heard about. Like, who is that for? Ultimately, that stuff is for game journalists, really. I mean, most people have more games than they can ever play, ever. And really, they aren't looking for more distraction. I think, like, who's out there saying, wow, if only I had another indie game that I hadn't heard of to play and, you know, buy this week.
Yeah, no one, like, it's one of those great inaccuracies. Like, no one plays in abstract, right? Like, you know, it's like, what are you doing? Like, no one plays video games like people play video games on TV, right? Where they are shot.
Hey, I'm going to go play video games.
Where they're shot from the television's perspective, waving a controller around.
Yeah, which isn't even plugged in usually.
Which isn't usually plugged in. They are doing something specific that appeals to them. They're playing a specific game. And everything that, you know, almost everything that gets people to that position is marketing.
That's kind of like one of the things, like, this whole question is predicated on the media's actual influence on whether games are popular or not.
The thing to bring this back to is one of the other things you do see when people do postmortems on games. You know, to be fair to Clifford, to be fair to the big red dog himself, or what is his name? Dude Huge.
Yes.
You know, reaching for my first person futuristic shooter was too woke is a relatively rare one. That is a shiny Pokemon of excuses.
It shows introspection, right?
Right. No, it's also nonsense. Yeah, but like, it is, but
incorrect introspection.
But of the places that people, or the places that devs go emotionally when things don't find traction with an audience, one of the more common ones is the press ignored us and therefore we didn't have traction. Yeah. And that can mean a bunch of things. It can mean like, and it's funny, if you respond to that with maybe you didn't approach marketing in the right way, that doesn't mean that you should have. That doesn't mean that the press will take your money to market the game, because they fucking don't. It's, you know, it means that, the press isn't there to be your marketing agency.
I don't know how much effect the press really has at all anymore. I mean, certainly, I mean, there's been plenty of big games which have become successful without any press marketing whatsoever. It was a surprise to me when I heard about League of Legends and that it had millions of players. I was like, what? What's that? Which is pathetic, obviously, on my part. But at the same time, proves that we aren't really important. Or, I say we. I'm not one of them anymore.
Neither am I.
Don't look at me.
No, I mean, yeah, but you're right, because like the purpose of the games press is to serve interesting material to people who read the games press, and hopefully expand that group of people who read the games press by making nice things that more people like. It is not to advertise a particular game. It is not to, like, there is no greater good to be served here. There's no public good, and that's a really crucial one. Like, it's not journalism in the traditional sense where there's some public interest or public health to be advanced through a certain method of reporting or approach to reporting. There is certainly public good to be advanced through the good, well-financed, this came up in a previous podcast, reporting on serious issues that affect the industry, etc. That's almost not just a different kind of journalism. It's almost a different fucking industry to the one that most games media exists in. Certainly when it comes to a training perspective. So, like, I just sort of don't really buy the notion that it's there to serve the health of the industry as a whole. Because it's almost like expecting the least powerful, or the group with the least power in that equation to actually affect that.
Also, just to talk about this game in a specific detail now, I hadn't heard of it prior to this question, but I did look it up, and although it's impossible for me to look back on the data that's available to me and say for sure why it failed, it did enter early access and then was cancelled only after 3 months.
Which is
not terribly long, and it also entered early access at quite a high price point for an unfinished game at £21 or so, and it had fairly serious issues. So those things,
no matter the title of the game again.
Well, this is the other thing. It was called A Year Without Rain, I think. I've shut on my phone now, but I think that's what it's called. Which is
A Year of Rain.
Sorry, A Year of Rain, which is not a great title for an RTS game.
I guess it looks like a sci-fi kind of fantasy sci-fi.
I didn't get a sense of what it actually aesthetically was going for from colourful. Its video. But I mean, so it's not clear what it's really about aesthetically. Has an ambiguous name. Even though it came from a proven studio, it launched with a lot of bugs, and it didn't have enough time to fix them, which suggests of funding problems internally within the studio. Like, I mean, you can't really rely on early access to be the silver bullet to fund your game.
Yeah.
Like, is the answer.
And particularly not without a really clear pitch, which I'm not getting. If there is one, then there may well be one. But the name doesn't tell you the experience to expect. I'm not sure what problem is being solved there.
Maybe it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not obvious from the outside.
I mean, if it was taking that it was good, because obviously I appreciate that the question asker had an investment in it that comes from somewhere in the community there. This is a really tough position to be in, and it's almost typical of the games in the middle. Being a good example of an existing genre is a really tough position to market.
It's either really great or it's
like
the worst.
Yeah. How do you because you're defining your own niche before you've even started, right?
Yeah.
Like your audience is people who appreciate better than average RTS games.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the audience.
Which is the genre that's massively on the wane as well. Well,
really,
has been, the interest in Warcraft 3. Well, let's not start on that.
I mean, interestingly, this was compared to Warcraft 3 in a lot of the Steam reviews.
Well, that's interesting
it was
because
old school, but co-op Warcraft 3 was exactly what it was pitched as.
Warcraft 3 got released.
Yeah, then Warcraft 3 actually came back just to kill this game.
But then it killed itself.
Did it? I don't know.
It's apparently in the process of that. But let's not go on to that.
Why not?
Because...
All right.
I must return to my coffin.
Very well.
He turns back into a coffin.
Shall we wrap this thing up then?
This baby.
Put a bow on it.
Wrap this baby up. Yes, those were all the questions we had time for. That's the phrase that we use. Send those questions to this baby in the future. Questions at baby.com.
The desperate helpline for confused fathers everywhere.
Questions at crateandcrowbar.com. You can send us questions on Twitter as well at Crate and Crowbar. Who knows who reads them? I certainly don't. You can watch, or rather listen to these episodes on YouTube as well, at youtube.com/crateandcrowbar. Or you can join us on our very lively and excellent Discord community. The link for which is on our webpage, crateandcrowbar.com.
They're lovely people.
They really are lovely people.
They're really here to tell you that you're wrong about Lord of the Rings.
They are, and they're
that's
probably
what makes
correct,
them lovely.
sadly. I still think Peter Jackson's version is shit. Anyway.
They're mutually exclusive things.
Are they? What? Hang on, which ones? I feel strongly about this.
Alex,
clarify yourself!
I regret speaking up.
Back in the box.
You can say something about rotoscoping next time. I'm just going to kick off. Thanks, as always, to our wonderful Patreon backers. They are lovely people. Thank you for your contributions. You can also contribute to the creation of this thing. At patreon.com/CreightonCobra. Oh, Jesus.
Fucking hell.
Clayton Crowbar.
Grega Bubba solo.
McClunky.
That was a little excerpt from Rise of Skywalker there.
Thanks. Anyway, I've been Marsh Davis. I'm sorry. Who have you been? Are you sorry?
I am very sorry.
Thank God.
And I've been Alex Wiltshire.
I've been Chris Thurston, and I stopped feeling quite a long time ago.
Oh.
Two fists. One opinion. Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Christopher, would you say the word bardouche as though you are making love to the English language? Bardouche! Sorry, as you're trying to seduce the English language.
Bardouche.
Very good. Alex? Fungible, maybe?
Fungible.
Very good. Those are sexy words.
My fungible bardouche.
Bardouche.
It's as if you're trying to construct outro.
No, definitely not going to happen. We will cut this part out.